allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Next item is roll call.
Ron Ritchie, absent. Jason Borsheim.
Here.
Sam Morocco.
Here.
Bill Scarborough.
Here.
David Lohmeyer, absent. Belinda Billings here. Joe Sucher.
Here. I'd like to welcome everybody to our Independence Township Planning Commission meeting. The next item is a review of the agenda. I have one amendment. If anybody has any others, speak up, please. We need to amend item G1 to read that it is a final site plan approval and to including a special land use approval. Okay, any questions on that?
I'll make a motion to amend the agenda under G1 that it reads final site plan and special land use approval. Second.
Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Now how about a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
Motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Support.
All in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, thank you. Next item is public comment for items not on the agenda. To reiterate, this is an opportunity for people in the audience to talk about things that are not on the agenda. If you have something you want to discuss that's on the agenda, you will be given an opportunity to do so. There are 4 items that are public hearings, and so you'll be given an opportunity on them to discuss on those as we get to those. There are a couple items under regular business that are not public hearing, but we also give people the opportunity to comment at that time. So for right now, items that are not on the agenda, please raise your hand, we'll recognize you, and then we ask you to come to the podium and say your name and address. And after we finish with the audience, we will go to anybody that might be online. Anybody out there have anything they'd like to say? Yes, sir. Good, I didn't say all that for nothing.
Up here or this way? Okay.
Thank you.
My name is Greg Snyder, and my wife Lou Ann is here. She's a board member of the HOA for Sanctuary, which is located right by where these are all occurring, within 1,000 feet.
Can I interrupt?
Sure.
So this is an agenda item. If
We
you're talking
can-
about the rezonings,
We just didn't know when, how traffic control would appear on Dixie, and we didn't know where that would fit in this agenda.
you'll be given an opportunity to speak to that when we get to those rezoning requests.
That's fine, thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Anybody online? Okay, we'll close the public comment section.
I'm still hearing feedback. Do y'all?
No.
No.
Okay.
Next item is public hearing. First item is PC file 2024, Caleb Dogger, requesting consideration of a plan unit development amendment in order to make site plan modifications and new branding to an existing car wash and oil change on Sashabaw Road, a little bit south of Walden. Megan, would you, let me just preface it. It appears that the applicant has satisfied a good number of our prior issues, and we've seen this many times. Would you like to comment on the remaining issues?
Sure. In terms of the remaining issues, there are, from our perspective, the planning commission should make a decision about the 3 wall signs. They're permitted 1, but the planning commission can allow them up to 3. And also we suggested that there be fire department approval and that the applicant coordinate with the building department on improvements and whether the permits are needed. Also, I believe the township engineer had some comments to share as well.
Is that it?
Yes.
Jason?
Sure. From a site perspective, most of the improvements have already been constructed, so our comments are kind of based on the deficiencies that we're noting from what was built, as compared to the ordinance. The first was with the addition of the concrete island. There was not two dedicated lanes, one for the car wash, one for the bypass, so they've got 22.5 feet-ish divided, where 24 is required by the ordinance, so they're a little bit short on the width to have a entry lane and a bypass lane. We noted that the ADA parking for the site needs to be shown. I believe there was an existing space before the improvements, there wasn't one shown on the proposed improvement plans. And then there were two dumpsters, there was an existing dumpster and then another dumpster was added to the site, but we noted that the access to that was conflicting with the staffing spaces, so timing for when that dumpster is serviced would be critical to make sure that there aren't cars in the way for that. And then I think we also noted the fire marshal approval, just to make sure that they were satisfied with the dimensional deficiencies that were noted in our report, and that was it.
And I will note that the fire chief did email today in regard to this, and he felt that it was fine, except that the one lane can't be blocked, in order for the firefighters to have emergency access.
I
Are we putting this up on?
I have a copy of that email, and I would like to note, and maybe in a few minutes the applicant can address it, there are frequently cars parked in that access out to that little side road there, which would interfere with that, fire truck ability. Planning commissions, any, comments or questions? Joe?
I don't know, is there anybody from the building department here?
It's online.
I was just wondering whether or not this coordination with the building department has started or not.
It has not started, it will start as soon as it gets the PUD minor amendment approval. So they've been on site, they've cited them for code violations, but they did not ask them to apply for permits until the site plan was done, because if the site plan changed or made them change things on site, then the permits would change. But they are in communication.
Okay, and so you're happy with that,
Yes.
at this point anyway?
Yes, and that language was requested by the building department.
Anybody else?
Yeah, Jason, on the 24 feet, is that for both directions? Because he's got 22 foot, on one side of the traffic island and 20 on the other, so doesn't that wash the 24 combined, or?
The way the traffic is set up, that bypass lane gets bisected by the lane that's entering into the car wash, so it's conflicting. So I think the comment from the fire marshal is he's okay with the 22 feet as long as there's no car.
Right, so what I was thinking was, when you go through the kiosk, and let's say there was a situation where a fire truck was pulling in, you can break a way out the side drive to get out of the way of the fire truck, and they could pull people in the tunnel, they have a pretty big staff there, and they're already outside, so it's a little different situation also because it's manned and everyone's in their running car. If there was a situation where parked vehicles could conflict with the fire truck or something, it might be a little more concerning,
Yeah, it's not ordinance compliant, but it seems manageable.
That's what I'm getting to. It's close,
Yep.
And in that I thought that the 24 feet was
Two-way.
both lanes, so they, if you split it up 20 out, but yeah, the cars take away from it, but I couldn't see conflicting traffic in the 22 foot between the kiosk and the building going both directions, because everybody's pointing out, everyone's at least pointing one direction, so I didn't think that was as big of a deal, but to get through this, I'm cool with the 3 signs that they did. That's something that we've got to get through, get a consensus on. I did have a question for the petitioner, if he, if
Why don't we
he's.
do the public hearing first, before we get into asking the petitioner?
Oh, okay, yeah, all right, go ahead.
You got anything simple, Jason?
I just wanted, I wanted a little clarification on where which dumpster will be, which site will be used, or if they intend to use both. And if, the newer one, this may be later question for the applicant, but, or rather for Megan, what's the problem with the new one again? Remind me, is it just the stacking? The cars seem to get in front of it during,
I think that was more
Yeah,
your
yeah,
thing.
so the required stacking stalls for the car wash conflict with access to the dumpster, so again, it's more of a
logistics thing?
programming, like, you know, they're
Yeah.
not gonna service the dumpster during main business hours, you know, not
Yeah, it's
maybe
probably in
first
their
thing in the
interest
day or late in the
to
evening.
make sure the guy doesn't show up blocking cars.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay.
So, again, it's one of those things that can be worked around from
Yep.
programming, not necessarily required as a plan revisions.
Okay, that was my only question.
Okay.
Jason, the ADA parking, the parking is there, it's just not marked, is it?
There is not a designated handicap stall shown on the site.
So it just
plan.
needs to be
So
marked
it needs to be
and designated.
signed, striped, and confirm that where it's located meets ADA requirements.
Okay, at this time, at 6:11, I'd like to open the public comment section of this request. Is there anybody in the audience that would like to speak on this particular application?
What are the applicants?
I'll get to you after the public hearing. Thanks. Anybody else? How about online? Any of our online people? Okay, at 6:12, I will close the public hearing. What? Did I hear somebody?
Can I help you?
Say,
It's Dave Moran.
Dave? Dave, are you trying to speak? Okay,
Can I ask Megan a question?
well, let me,
Okay.
so at 6:12, I will close the public comment section of this particular application. Go ahead, Sam.
So, Megan, since we're having a public hearing, I don't see where, there's no, it's not, usually it's back on regular business where we can address it, it's not on regular business, so how, if it's not coming up again at the meeting, so what's going on with the way this is coming in front of us? Because if that's not the case, we need to amend the agenda so that we.
What's going on?
I don't think he realized.
All right, well, this planning commission meeting's just getting started, but
Maybe we can mute.
Dave?
according to
Hey,
the
whoever's
consultant,
speaking online, please mute your mic.
Yeah.
Did he? Okay, I was gonna call him. So,
That would have been my fault. This is my first agenda to put together, so you could go back and amend the agenda, but you do need to take some action tonight, so I apologize.
Do we
Right.
need to amend the agenda?
yeah, we gotta get on regular business. I don't think we can take action during during a
No,
public
usually
hearing, can you?
do- The way that I looked at this and the way that I looked at the other ones is that you have the public hearing and then you take action, and that's what you've done before.
We have had a
Yeah.
public hearing.
I understand it, but the public hearing is to agree that we're going to do a minor PUD amendment on it, right?
Well, it shouldn't even have been in the public hearing
Section?
section, but it was noticed as a public hearing by mistake.
Okay,
So you can take action based on this tonight.
And maybe
During
it's
this-
regular.
during this segment?
During this section. Yeah, I don't,
It's okay,
yeah, during this section.
okay. So
Okay.
all right, well, we'll just roll it into discussion and movement after
Mhm.
since you've closed the public hearing, if we're good with that, right? You
I'm
good?
fine with it. Okay, I have just a couple comments, and then we'll let the applicant, unless anybody else has got questions for the applicant, in addition to some of the others that have already been raised. There are 2 Pennzoil signs on the building currently. Your existing elevations don't show those. I assume the implication is that they'll be coming down. And there is some signage on the back of the building, in a number of locations, and I took that today, if,
Yeah, I see.
so, I'd be curious what your intention with that. One of them says, it's on the back, where it says, join our monthly wash club, only $1, unlimited washes. There's looks like an informational sign, and then another one, attention please, that's stuck in the ground. So I'm curious what your intent is with those signs as well as the Pennzoil. Yeah, I think that's the only other question I have. Does anybody else have any questions for the applicant? Okay, why don't
Well,
you
yeah, bring them up.
step up to the mic and address what you've been heard?
So my name is Hank Fawaz with the Planet Car Wash and Oil Change. Well, for sure, as far as the handicapped, there is a handicap sign and space in that first spot. We know that part, right? It's just not on the survey. Is that what we're saying? There is a sign and a.
The handicap stall is not identified on here.
Okay.
With striping and signage.
Okay, got it.
So,
And then as far as the dumpster, there's two dumpsters, but there's only one that's gonna be used, and that is on, traveling into the car wash, into the lane. That's the only one we do use. And we've worked a relationship with the company where they only come on a certain day, in certain business hours. So lately, in the last few months, it's never been an issue with, the line or stacking cars and whatnot. But again, whatever we need to do to, offset if it's an issue, obviously we'll do. I think we've cooperated in every way possible. So whatever we need to do, we'll do. As far as the signs, that one attention, that's your standard car wash sign. It is bolted in the floor for the, like every car wash has, that says, not responsible for damage inside the tunnel and whatnot. So that is staying there. That was our intent, to keep there. So whatever we need to do to satisfy that, obviously we'll do it. If we need to move it, we'll move it. The Pennzoil signs are coming down. The only thing that's taking place is the Planet logo is replacing that, which is our company logo. I know we didn't want the ACM, the metal behind the signs, so we said we're not gonna do it, just to not complex anything, so we're not gonna do that. We're just gonna have simply, like I said, our Planet logo on there. As far as the Pennzoil signs, like I said, those are coming down. You mentioned one other sign, but I wasn't familiar with which one you're talking about. So yes, those we did put up. That's just on the window. That one is coming down. The one in the middle is the same thing, like the one that's bolted, so that one's coming down.
So
Okay.
one's on a window, one's on a door.
Yeah, so
and they're-
the one on the brick, that one's coming down. So that it's the same sign as the one that's bolted that says attention, not responsible for broken
Okay.
antennas, things like that. So that I could take down as soon as tomorrow.
They're allowed up to 25% coverage of their windows with
10%.
is it 10? Okay, they
Yep,
probably
it is.
still meet that with all the windows in the car wash and everything,
Yeah.
but that
Yeah,
would be.
there's windows along the entire tunnel that we didn't touch. That's probably the only
Just be
window that.
conscious of that,
For
that
sure.
you can't start filling those with marketing.
Yeah, no, we're not.
There's a limit
At this
to-
point, we're not putting any more signs on windows. So what we have right now are the only signs that we're doing. There was something else you guys had a concern with, I want to address.
Dumpsters,
Was there anything else?
The lane width,
signs.
dumpster.
Oh, the exit. So that I was unaware of, about the cars going, for the fire truck to go out. As soon as tomorrow, you'll never see a car there again. That simple. So there was employees parking there. Just never really did the math to realize that that was a violation. So tomorrow, you'll never see a car there again, as simple as that. So we'll keep that wide open. And then, not to make things even harder, but when I did talk to the fire marshal, maybe it was just a miscommunication, I'm not sure, but he did let me know that all we needed was 20 feet. I was standing in the office with Brian and the fire marshal. He told me 20 feet, and I made it 22 to give me a little bit of space. So to hear 24, that's like news to me. If we need to make a change, I guess we will, but the intention was, I thought I was given 2 more feet as a little grace, but I was unaware that it was 24. The fire marshal, I had a face-to-face conversation with him with Brian in the office, and he said, give me 20 feet and we're good to go. So that's really all I got. But I think we've been very cooperative the whole process. Like I said, open communication, whatever we need to do to just get our signs in the building, that's all we're trying to do. Get our signs in the building, move forward, and just make things as simple as possible.
Did you say what the existing trash receptacle in the very back corner is for?
Say it again.
The trash receptacle in the very back corner.
Where the exit is,
The old dumpster.
that one's never used. There's not even a dumpster in there. We just use that for like storage of, wheelbarrows, shovels, things like that. So we're not even using that. I mean, at the end of the day, if we need to clear that, we will, but
Is it
that's
still
never being used.
enclosed? It's still got the gates on it?
It's bricked and it's got a gate. And it's never being used other than for shovels and wheelbarrows and storage.
So it's still, I don't have a problem.
Oh, I don't have no problem.
Okay. Anybody else got any comments on the commission?
Joe?
Just one, the landscaping, which is no time to be doing this now,
Right.
obviously. It's scheduled for the spring, or just, that's gonna happen?
No, yeah, for sure. Any conditions we have, we're gonna knock out as soon as possible. But yeah, for sure. When the spring comes around, we'll knock that out 100%.
Right, okay.
So, just by way of reminders, if we have a motion to approve, we need to specifically mention the 3 wall signs, fire department approval, coordination with the building department, and I guess the ADA parking being identified. I think I got them all.
Sorry, one more note. All those spaces in the front that we mentioned we're never parking cars there either. Whether it was something we wanted to or not, we're never parking cars there. All the employees are parked on the side of the building, so you'll never see cars near that dumpster
In these spots here.
in those
Yeah.
spots. We don't allow that. And like I said, the exit will, starting tomorrow, nobody will be parking there anymore.
Somebody wanna make a motion?
I'll make a motion. I'll make a motion that we recommend a minor PUD amendment to the site, plan modifications and new branding, to the existing car wash and oil change, with verification that, the ADA parking spot is in compliance and all other violations or anything that isn't done with the building department once this is approved. That the metal sign on the back is removed and all other signage other than what's depicted in this exact plan is removed from the hardscape of the building. And note that the fire department approved the size of the emergency escape lane, that no cars will be parked in the escape lane out to the side service drive at any time during operation or other. And that we do amend the PUD to allow the 3 wall signs that are proposed. And that all under the condition of the coordination that they meet all of the permit needs and site plan requirements outside of our scope with the building department. And
Trustee Marco, I just want to clarify, this is the board that would approve it. So you said it was a motion to recommend approval, or?
okay, we're amending a minor site plan, a
Yeah,
minor
it's a
PUD
motion.
amendment.
Motion to approve a minor
Okay, all
PUD
right.
agreement.
Correct.
Some amendment.
I accept that. That's what this will be.
I'll support.
Sam Morocco,
Yes.
Bill Scarborough.
Yes?
Belinda Billings, yes. Joe Sucher.
Yes,
Jason Borsham.
Yes.
Absent. Absent.
Appreciate it.
Absent ones too.
I'll call the absent ones too.
Well, that's what Megan said, you
No,
have.
that was for the
That was for the roll.
roll.
Just for the.
Roll.
Oh, okay, okay. Sorry, I was confused. Okay,
Motion
We're-
passed?
Good.
motion passed, thank you. Appreciate it.
Now, do we not need to make an amendment to bring that down to regular business? I thought that's what she said.
No.
No,
No, okay,
no. Don't confuse me.
sorry. Sorry.
There's a lot on here tonight. There's a lot going on tonight.
Thank you. Next item is PC file 2025-008. This is a public hearing for the requesting of a rezoning from C4 General Business to OS2 on that parcel, which is on Dixie Highway on the northwest end. And this is, the applicant is the township, it's a township-initiated rezoning. Megan, would you like to summarize? This is a public hearing, so for the benefit of our
Sure.
listeners.
So the site is currently zoned C4, and it's approximately 8.36 acres in area. The site's currently vacant, and the planning commission has initiated a rezoning from C4 to office service 2. In terms of the master plan in our report, there's a number of things that we've cited in terms of, to consider with it meeting the master plan, but just wanted to specify that this, in the northwest sub-area of the future land use map, this is shown as office service. And then that for land use recommendations, the portion of the plan states that the area south of the I-75 access ramp is designated office service use. This area includes several vacant properties with good development potential. Given the convenient access to the freeway and other amenities along Dixie Corridor, the intended use for the area's office, research, and other related uses should that ever occur. In the master plan as well, there is a table that has zoning for non-residential and mixed-use categories. And then office service 2 was a comparable zoning category for office service, along with office and office service 1. This site has some particular natural features. It has a 20-foot depression in depth near the southern border of the parcel, and that topography has some constraints in the development of the site. The site appears to be wooded with deciduous trees. There would most likely any types of development would result in tree removal. And also the soils are very limited in development potential due to the slope for commercial buildings and defined as structures that are not less than 3 stories high. And there's limited, it's limited for you wouldn't want to build something with a basement there, but if it was on a slab, the soils would support it. In terms of development potential, previously you looked at some concept plans which showed that this could be developed as an office, as an office building, and within the setbacks. There's a listing of principal uses and special land uses in the report. Essentially, they're office in nature, including medical, veterinary, but also banks, training centers, photography studios, retail office supply, business service establishments like printing or photocopying, florist shops, personal service establishments where like barbers and beauty shops, child daycare centers, adult daycare centers, laundry and dry cleaning, and private service clubs like the elk fraternal organizations, and pharmacies. In terms of special land uses, sit-down restaurants, but not with drive-throughs, are special land uses, research and design centers, and related office, general specialty hospitals, motels and residence hotels, places of worship, housing for the elderly, and state residential facilities, such as adult foster care homes or adult foster care, congregate care, or convalescent or nursing homes. Also, in terms of traffic impact, which I understand someone talked about, that will probably come up, Dixie Lane Highway is a 5-lane road and should have the capacity to handle additional traffic from uses allowed in the OS2. Generally, commercial land uses allowed in the C4 district would generate more traffic and have different peak hours than the uses allowed under the OS2. For essential facilities and services, we've listed some things from Noack and Kraus' office that they provided to us earlier about these and the other 2 parcels that are proposed rezoning. Specifically that their sanitary sewer is located along Dixie Highway across the frontage of the site. It's not a gravity sewer, so additional infrastructure would be required. Water main's been extended across the opposite side of Dixie Highway. They recommend that any development brings the water main across Dixie, extending the frontage to the subject site and other parcels, and then provide a looped connection back to Dixie Highway. And then also per their records, the site does not have a positive storm outlet to Dixie Highway. Previous developments have proposed to install retention systems with no outlet, which mandates a significantly larger volume of stormwater storage over a detention system with an outlet. In terms of our observations, the OS2 zoning district is consistent with the master plan, and the subject site has some limitations due to topography, stormwater, and soils, but likely could be developed under the proposed zoning district.
Thank you. Jason, do you have anything?
Nothing to report.
Joe?
Questions?
Sure.
The sewers, it's not a gravity sewer. Is this gonna require pumps or something like that in the infrastructure
Correct.
improvements? Yes.
Yeah, they could have a gravity sewer on site potentially, but it'll have to have a pump connection to that force main.
Okay. And one of the comments under woodlands was most types of development will result in tree removal. It's not clear cutting, it's just some trees might be removed. You're not talking about clearing all the trees out.
No, I mean, but it's a heavily wooded site, so trees, in order to clear a building envelope and the necessary utilities would need to be cleared.
Right, right. I mean, for that limited building envelope stuff.
If it was developed in any fashion, yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's it.
I will open the public comment for this at 6:31. Again, if you have something to say, please raise your hand. I'll recognize you. Come to the podium, name and address, please.
I'm Paul Zakos. I'm the facilities property specialist for Oakland County. And I'm going to respond to this. I also have our broker from Colliers International, who is marketing the property now. The letter that was sent from the commission was sent to Sean Carlson. That letter made it to my boss's desk, Ed Joss, and Ed wrote this letter. Ed couldn't make it today, so I'm going to read this letter. As you know, the property is being marketed and sold, or trying to be sold. It's been difficult to sell this property, but I'll have John give some details on his marketing and the issues. Dear Ms. Scarborough and the Planning Commission members, this letter is in response to the letter sent to my office dated November 6th. So he says my office, but the letter originally went to Sean but made it to his desk. So regarding the rezoning of two parcels, I'm put both of the parcels are in this letter. I know you have it as 1 and 3 in the agenda.
So, if I may interrupt, just for the sake of the audience, you own what's listed as parcel, or agenda item 1 and agenda item 3. Or
Yeah.
agenda item 2 and 4
Which is 5.
on our agenda.
Agenda item 2 and 4, yes.
Okay, just wanted to make sure that.
Yep, parcel 0819351005 and 007.
Thank you.
So regarding the rezoning of the two parcels owned by Oakland County, parcels 0819351005 and 0819351007. Herein collectively the properties and individually parcel 005 and 007. As you know, the proposed rezoning is changing parcel 005, which is the larger parcel, 8.35 acre parcel, from general business, C4, to office service, OS2, and parcel 007, which is 1.1 acres, from multifamily R2 to office O. Oakland County has owned these properties since 2008 and is currently marketing the properties to sell through a commercial brokerage firm, Colliers International. The proposed rezoning of parcel 005 to OS2 will severely restrict the potential offers that will produce the highest and best price for this property. The current C4 zoning allows for desired office and medical uses and also allows for limited size retail, which could ensure the property is developed sooner given more possible users. Office services or OS2 zoning is a downgrade and would restrict the market potential for the current C4, from the current C4 zoning, and for this reason, the county opposes the rezoning. Office land in general is not supported by current economics, and many office buildings in general are selling at 20% of their replacement cost. For the reasons set forth in, the county opposes the rezoning of both parcels. I'll just summarize 005 and 007. The county requests that both parcels remain as currently zoned. Sincerely, a Joss. Let me have John come up and give a little detail onto why we think this, and I know there's another parcel in between ours, and that owner is here too. I briefly spoke to him. It appears we all have a similar situation. So, John, if you'd like to.
Good evening. My name is John Fricke. I am an executive vice president with Colliers, working out of our southeastern Michigan office in Royal Oak. I've been doing commercial real estate in southeastern Michigan for 30-plus years and have done a lot of office, medical office, and retail during that time frame. I was hired by the county over a year ago to sell both of the subject parcels that are on the agenda tonight, parcels 2 and 4. And I agree with Paul's reading of the letter and the county's, I guess, rejection of the proposed rezoning to just office. As I'm sure you all know, the current C4 zoning does allow office uses in the O2 category, and I can assure you folks that I have been actively marketing the property for office uses that would fit in to that, both general office and medical office. You know, I've been up here enough to notice that you've been, I think, pretty blessed with a lot of medical establishments up in this general area, including, you know, I'd say within a half mile or so of here, and then also kind of at the Main Street Dixie intersection. In fact, I just assisted Trinity Health with the new Trinity Health IHA program that they put into the former Rite Aid right there, kind of at the tip of the triangle, that I think just opened up in the last month or so. So having said that, you know, I can assure you that I'm doing everything possible to secure, you know, a variety of users for the property that fit into the current C4, and certainly a big part of that effort is both office and medical office. I'm sure you're all aware of the very, very negative effect that the COVID pandemic had on office usage around the country, around the world. You know, we're still in southeastern Michigan, probably still not quite at 80% occupied in terms of the general office. As Paul mentioned, there's starting to be a lot of repurposing of some office. In fact, I'll give you one example that you might find interesting. There are two 250,000-foot buildings on Northwestern Highway in Southfield, west of Telegraph, called the Galleria. And those held tenants like IBM and Xerox over the years. Really nice Class A buildings. Those are currently under contract to Costco, and assuming Costco gets approval, which it sounds like they will, they're going to be tearing those buildings down and putting up a new Costco with a service station in front, as kind of they typically do. So I just share that with you as an example of the fact that, you know, this area has a significant overhang of office space, and I would just state again that I think limiting the marketing of this particular property to just office, although I know it includes a medical office and a few other kind of miscellaneous uses, again, I feel would have a very detrimental impact on our ability to secure a buyer and a user for the property. And, you know, I think it would frankly effectively cut the pool of possible buyers probably by 2/3, I would say, if you kind of look at the categories that are going to be affected by this. So again, I would just state my support for the county's position and tell you that, you know, I would certainly not support the current effort to rezone the property.
Thank you.
Sure.
I also want to say one more thing about, I'm talking about both parcels, and I know you have them on the agendas differently, but the larger parcel is really the development parcel, which has the opportunity for a larger building. The smaller parcel has always, in my understanding, from some engineering I've seen and talking to other survey or engineering companies, that parcel was complementary for detention. So it's actually a low area. It's currently a pond, I'll call it, and that when these there were 4 parcels that were owned by one developer years ago. County bought 2 of them, and there is also a development agreement that allows for shared driveways and shared utilities through better access versus you know, individual access on each parcel. So that we think of these 2 parcels as together, you know, that they're being sold, and that smaller parcel has the advantage of having the detention, off-site detention, you know, for the larger parcels, so that you don't have to do as much. And it's already a difficult, as your stated, it's a difficult parcel to develop. The grade from would be at the southerly property line to the road is almost 30 feet, and is heavily, you know, there's trees on there too. So that's another difficult part of selling the property. But overall, you know, the location is wonderful. It's sitting right there off of the freeway. We know eventually there's going to be an organization, entity, or business that wants that parcel. Hopefully the market's catching up to our marketing. I'm stating this for, although I'm on number 2, it applies to everything for number 4 on the agenda. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else have anything to say? Yes, sir. Anybody else? Anybody online? No. Okay. At 6:42, I will close the public comment section on agenda item F2. Commission members. Sam.
Sure. I got quite a few points I would like to make. So, I think what I'd like to express, and I've been on the planning commission on and off since '03, been involved with a lot of the master plans. Dixie Highway is a US highway. It developed in a very commercial manner to the south. Then from White Lake Road to the north, it started developing in a different manner. It's a much more natural in nature. It's less invasive. There's berm buildings. There's houses built back in the marshes. There's wetlands. There's residential. Totally different than South White Lake Road. The township has, as early as I can remember being here, over 20 years, has always had the master plan. Our intent was to always downzone this property and not have it look like Southern Dixie Highway, and it hasn't. The developers have agreed to do what they've done. The buildings have been built the way that they've been built, in a residential transitional type manner. There's no hard commercial. We probably should have done this 20, 30 years ago as the times changed and development methods changed and the look of the corridor changed, but we're doing it now. The courthouse, when it was originally going to go there, that was a use that was less invasive than a hard commercial use, because the business hours were more relative to business hours, which was less invasive to the neighboring properties. So it wasn't as big of a threat at that time because we thought it was gonna be a courthouse and that it would be open, 9 to 5, and that it would be, not a heavy commercial. The township has no intent to allow gas stations, fast food restaurants, heavy commercial. We have no intent to turn Dixie Highway into Sashabaw, which is a stop on I-75 for everybody. That's not the goal, it's not the objective, it never was, for the township to turn that more rural part of as hard as that is to envision, our US highway is the rural highway of our township over there. And our other, over here is a very dense, heavily commercial area that's not on a US highway, but that just happens to be how the township developed. We're not interested in having that Dixie Highway be polluted with heavy commercial like Sashabaw Road is. That we've planned for this, we just haven't done the rezoning. I don't agree that it's not marketable. There's always if you come up with a creative idea, there's always PUDs, there's assemblages, there's other ways of making this project work. But what we don't want is heavy commercial there. We want the stuff off the road. We don't want it to be operating till 11, 12 at night. We're in the middle of a lawsuit with a gas station who wants to go there, which is totally inappropriate for the area adjacent to residential. These 3 parcels are surrounded by residential. There's a lot of topography issues with it, but I think that people interpret that office service means office buildings. And your examples on Northwest Highway, and I know the buildings you're talking about, we don't expect office service to be office buildings being built, but there's a lot of uses and a lot of special land uses in office service that can be used that would be much more aligned with our goals and objectives to protect the character of that part of the community and the transition from that part of the community to the residential neighborhoods that surround it. So, the last person in the township to buy a piece of property and get approved to build a building was a veterinary clinic, which would be allowed on this property. We haven't had anybody build office buildings here. I can't even remember the last time one was built. If you take out medical, I don't even know if we have any office buildings I could think of in the community. So that's not what we're envisioning as a big office building. This is long overdue to protect that section of the corridor. The township board voted unanimously over and over and over for every master plan for as far back as I can remember, agreeing that this area would be less invasive and less commercially developed than Sashabaw was. But what hadn't happened is the township initiated rezoning that we're doing now, and it's time that we get it done and before it's too late. And that's my opinion right now.
I'd just like to add to your opinion. I find it curious, as you say, the township board has repeatedly passed our master plans that had this as has been outlined as office area. Every one of those master plans got county approval too. And now they're taking a different stance. And the last approval was either late last year or early this year. Thank you. Anybody else? Joe?
Well, just that the 20 years between the zoning and the master plan being different is bad for Independence Township. I mean, we have ignored the state's pressure to align the master plan with zoning ordinances. And we're catching up right now. But, the master plan is the plan. The zoning ordinances it's our job, townships, to move the zoning into what the master plan says, which has been adopted, approved, public hearings, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So we're not going outside of a long-term plan here at all. At all. We're just trying to catch up with what we should have been doing, what we should have been doing based on our master plans of 20 years. So, it's shame on us for not doing it sooner, I guess.
Thank you. Jason?
Nope, that's
Linda?
That's about it.
I am not a real estate expert. I have experience in it. I have many years of financing commercial real estate, and many years on a planning commission, or several planning commissions. It's my understanding that the demand for commercial space is pretty light. And in fact, pretty much the only thing there's any demand for today is residential. And this zoning would accommodate certain types of residential and would, elderly, I think, if I'm correct, and would act as more of a buffer. So, I don't know, I kind of see this as a good move, and as has been said, an attempt to bring our zoning in line with our master plan that's existed for many years.
Mr. Chair?
Yeah.
I just wanted to add, this OS2 zoning, office buildings, it's not office buildings like you said over and over again, only. I mean, and I'm not gonna go over the entire list of permitted things, but basically, banks, credit unions, publicly owned buildings, training and educational centers, photographic studios, retail office, business service establishments, florist shops, personal service like barber shops, beauty shops, daycare centers, adult daycare centers, laundry and dry cleaning. This is just a list. Private service clubs, pharmacies. So all of these are permitted uses in the conversion to OS2 from C4. You know, so if anybody thinks that we're just saying an office building, not true at all, not true. But then you probably have seen this, so I don't want to reiterate it over and over again.
Anybody else got anything to say? I don't know what the flavor of the board is. It is my suggestion, because we don't have a full commission tonight, and I think we should get the opinion of all 7 of us on this, and because there is some objection from owners, we should postpone this until our next meeting, so we have some time to mull it over and get the opinion of all 7 of us. But that's just my suggestion.
Megan, would that come back at another meeting under regular business then, for us to look at this and then be able to decide at that point to make a
Yes.
recommendation?
Yes, you only need the public hearing that's happening tonight.
Thank you.
One other question, Megan, when they received notification, did they receive this very lengthy list of uses that would be available?
No, they received the notification that is in the packet, so, let me back up. The letter that the property owner referred to was a letter that, was written and signed by the planning commission chair as the planning commission requested in October. It listed some of the different uses and spoke as to why the planning commission chose to make that, to initiate this rezoning. But as part of the notice, neither the property owner nor anyone who received postcards of the notice would have received the lengthy report. However, I have spoken to both property owners and multiple residents on the phone and directed them to not only this packet when it came out, but also the previous packets where you had reports.
Okay. Because I could understand if they thought it was only office, but there's so many uses that are available.
Somebody want to make a motion, please?
I don't think we want to take action.
Well, we should postpone.
Well, it's not asking for action right now as this public hearing, is it?
I would just recommend to make a motion to postpone, or you could close the public hearing and direct staff that this should be back on the agenda as regular business at the next planning commission meeting.
That sounds appropriate.
Okay, well, I already did close the public hearing, so shall we just leave it at that we direct it to be on the agenda for our next meeting.
I think it's fair to let the other commissioners see it. Now we've heard their side and they've, heard some of our comments, if they wanna come back and bring up anything at the next meeting. And I'd like to hear from the gentleman that owns the middle parcel, obviously, to see what his, concerns would be also.
Okay, we ready? Moving on, next item, parcel 2025-008, a rezoning request initiated by the township to rezone this parcel, which is adjacent to the previous discussed one, from C1 local business to an R2 multifamily to OS2. Megan?
So much of the information is the same. I'm just going to highlight what is different from this parcel, from the other,
Thank you.
from the previous agenda item. So this particular parcel is split zoned. It has zoned with C1, local business, and R2, multiple family. And we noted in the review that the R2 portion does not meet the minimum lot size of 10 acres for that zoning district. The same items from the master plan apply, but in terms of natural features and resources, this site doesn't have the topography that the other site did. It slopes from north to south with a change in topography of 25 feet, but doesn't have a depression. Again, it appears to be wooded with deciduous trees, and most types of development would result in tree removal. And the soils are the same, with limited development potential due to the slope for small commercial buildings, and dwellings that do not have, dwellings that are without basements. The proposal is to OS2, so all the uses listed and mentioned by the planning commissioners, would be the same. And then everything in terms of the utilities is also the same. And so we noted in our review that it's consistent with the master plan, because it's consistent with that designation, and the OS2 zoning district is one of those zoning districts that was listed to be compatible with the office service future land use designation. And it does have some limitations due to soils and stormwater, but could likely be developed under the proposed zoning district. Welcome.
Commission members?
Just wanna ask Megan, so even though it had, back in the day, somebody threw a multifamily zoning on it, it was non-compliant basically at the time? Or did we change the land size for that zoning? How did that even get zoned something that it doesn't conform
I can't answer
to?
that question. I don't know that detail. What I would suspect is that it was zoned to multiple family, and then the minimum lot size changed. And I know trustee Morocco, you were part of changing the setbacks for that zoning district, I believe. So I don't know if the lot size changed at that time as well.
Okay, just, that's a weird one.
It is unusual.
At 6:58, I will open the public comment section for this, agenda item RF3. There's one gentleman out there who'd like to say something. And, gentlemen, did you get your question answered regarding traffic? I'll give you an opportunity next. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Wilson Lahoud. I'm actually a real estate broker with Inca Realty LLC out of Grand Blanc, and I'm the owner of the land itself. That's the one that ends, it's item number 3 on your agenda, ends with 006. I purchased the property almost 13 years ago when it was zone R1. We did not pay a lot of attention to the multi-unit at the time, zoning, if you will. Been marketed since then. I don't know if it's the economy, I don't know if me or something, but, anybody that would try to be interested in the property end up not, fulfilling to write an offer or what have you. As we all know, we're all suffering these days with just the real estate market or whatnot. So for me as a small investor, it's kind of like a double whammy on me. I'm being taken from an R1 into office use, and I understand there's a lot of other uses to it, but if we're limited in the topography of the land, what we could build and whatnot, I think any assisted living or anything like that's gonna require more of a building envelope. That might require even, I mean, with my land, I've got almost 2.9 acres with 420 feet of frontage. Yeah, there's a lot of dips in it or whatnot, but I think it's gonna make even the building envelope where we could put a building might be smaller because of topography. Anyways, I think it's just, it'll hurt me more than it's gonna benefit me going from an R1, which is a little bit less invasive as an R4, but, you know, if I would put it on my wish list, I would rather be, you know, C4 as the county versus me with just C1, which is very limited. I don't wanna say limited, but not as many, other things that I could put on that property. Personally, I would not be, you know, okay with the change. So I understand it's the master, you know, we've been paying taxes for so long as zone commercial. Like I said, you know, in my opinion, it's gonna be limited less. Would have been great if we do a PUD where we could mix use or whatnot, to have different things that you're still gonna be approved by all of you, the planning commission. But, that's my take on it. You know, even with the office buildings that I have right now, honestly, I mean, you know, we could give them $15 triple net, which is basically way low. I mean, if you put a new building right now, you get asked about 40. So even with that low of a rate, we're not getting a lot of takers at all. That's on office building, and a lot of other real estate, even with retail, just because of what we're going through, so. There's nothing further I would like to add unless anyone's got some questions for me.
Thank you. Anybody else from the audience? Gentleman there?
I just want to say that when these rezoning letters were sent out, I know it's a state law that you have to send the property owners within 300 feet a notice. We were not given notice of item number 3's rezoning. There was no notice sent to the county, so make sure you understand that.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Red Snyder. If I could digress for a minute and just try to explain.
Can you give your address?
6552 Turtle Walk. And to give you a geographic look at how it looks for us, 10 years ago we moved into Turtle Walk, a subdivision that has 45 condos and a growing population. And in talking to other neighbors that live on Simler and Foster, these streets that are right around this development, in the last 10 years we saw heavier traffic coming north and south. When the speed limit was increased off I-75 exit 93 from 50 to 55, that just made it even worse for us. And I think that this area that we're talking about it's 55 miles an hour and it slows to 50. But the reality is it's 60 miles an hour and maybe even 65. So as we're coming off, say, exit 93, and we're passing this area that's going to be developed, we ourselves are trying to turn into, say, Turtle Walk. And the traffic behind us is 60 miles an hour. We have to try to make that turn at 27 miles an hour. Unfortunately, there's no way that we can get into a lane that would make the turn a little bit more safer for us. So for those of you that know that area, and now we're looking at Big B Coffee that's going to be coming into the traffic pattern too, we're seeing that more development and these speeds, something's got to be looked at. As a pedestrian, I've tried to walk from the 1,000 feet from my house just to Deer Lake Inn restaurant. You take your life in your hands. So I know that you have talked about that you would look at the traffic flow for projects like this, and that you'd even look at pedestrian safety and it's getting to be, just as you said, it's getting more, it's developing in a different way than the south end. But every time we introduce more and more facilities, we're getting more and more traffic. And I think that that traffic flow has got to be looked at. And that's probably principally, is that right? Okay, that's pretty much the general point I'm trying to make.
Thank you. Anybody else in the audience that would like to comment? Anybody online? At 7:05, I'll close the
No,
public.
we've got a gentleman
Oh, we
over
got
here.
I didn't see you, sorry. Thanks, Ed.
William Vitus, I live on 8080 Pine Ridge Drive, just off of Dixie, basically up behind Dixie Highway, not behind the property, but I will double and triple on his safety concerns, trying to exit Dixie Highway southbound to turn onto Pine Ridge to go back into our sub. You have to be extremely careful of cars doing, it's a downhill there. They get off I-75. And we always turn our turn signals on way early, start slowing down. If you try to make the turn like a normal turn, it could end up very bad. There's a traffic issue there. We deal with it every day, multiple times a day, currently, but it's getting worse.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, at 7:06, I will close the public comment section for this agenda item. Commission members.
First I want to talk to the posting, and I don't know if you got a letter or not at the county, but, you know, just for the public, anyone who drove by that saw those big signs that were put up that we were planning on rezoning. Just so everybody knows, that's something new that the commission asked to have. We changed an ordinance to do that. It wasn't for these parcels, it was basically just for any parcel in the township, because we had other people that were asking for rezonings, and we just implemented that policy because 300 feet to me isn't enough distance to let people really know what's happening, you know, so I think that the township's done a good job in that respect, because I got a lot of phone calls saying, hey, what's going on? I saw this huge billboard, you know, that they're gonna rezone these parcels, you know, and that's exactly what the intent was, to let the public know, and everyone know, if you didn't get a letter, if you drive on Dixie Highway, you know those 3 parcels are being considered for rezoning, and there's a QR code that directs you to what we're up to. So I think that we've evolved in that way, at least as far as transparency, and people are noticing that we're doing it, so that's a big deal. As far as the traffic goes, you know, that's an MDOT road that's there, and we tried to slow the traffic down on Dixie Highway for business owners, and what we were told was that most likely what they would, if we did a traffic study, that they'd most likely raise the speed limit, not lower the speed limit. Speed limits are based upon the average speed of cars for safety. So if everyone's driving 60 and the speed limit's 45, they're gonna raise the speed limit from 45 to 50 or 55, so everybody's traveling at the same speed. If you have slow cars and fast cars, they look at that as a more dangerous situation. So the likelihood of ever slowing down the traffic on Dixie Highway is probably very slim, but that's their justification for it. So people that, you know, because of the variation in speed creates more danger than, because people don't comply. So they go off of what people actually do, not the speed limit. So we have tried that, we did look into that. But that was an issue. On another point you made about walking, although the safety paths on Dixie Highway are very few because they're actually paved curbs for MDOT, and we don't have any jurisdiction over those. The Downtown Development Authority just recently put money in their budget to have those sidewalks and areas cleaned up, even though they're not our responsibility. So that will be something new that's happening, coming up in the next year, that the township's gonna take responsibility to at least clean those sidewalks of gravel and make them more pedestrian friendly, because the state doesn't do it, you know? So we also are, we just signed a contract to have a bunch of engineering done to figure out where the infrastructure is along Dixie Highway, because we're, with the Downtown Development Authority and the tax increment financing that we're getting, we are wanting to move those paved shoulders off the road and put a green space between those and the current sidewalks in areas that aren't done. We can currently only focus on that from Foster Road South, because that's the taxing jurisdiction that we're gonna get the funding for to do it, but that's a huge investment. The township's planning on spending millions of dollars that would normally be going outside the community to other tax jurisdictions, that we're able to capture and invest in that to make Dixie Highway not only look better, but also be safer. So in the next few years, you're gonna see a lot of money being spent on Dixie Highway for its improvements, whether it's crosswalks, extra right-hand turns. They're gonna make another left turn lane on White Lake Road onto North Dixie. That's already on the books, so that's coming. The township's investing some of our money to do across the street where Rite Aid is, to make that at a right turn lane right now, so that alleviates a lot of traffic in front of the cemetery and the racket club. So there's a lot of investment that's gonna get made on Dixie Highway to make it safer and look better, that's coming, just FYI for the people who live in that corridor that might not be following everything. That's it.
I have a question. Sam, I know that's an MDOT road, but is there any possibility between the township and MDOT of making, the slowing lane that goes in to the residential, you know, that takes up part of the easement?
You mean an XL decel lane being
Yes,
created?
yes.
I mean, not on I can't I'm just speculating. I can't imagine on existing things, but certainly that's something that we do now. If these properties get developed, I would imagine that would be part of the discussion, to get off the road, you know, to have an XL decel lane, which you see more frequently around the township. Whether your subdivision has it or not, you know, that's a different thing, but that was before us.
And that probably should have existed in under walk, but this new development, if it does have a right-hand turn lane, that would be great to get.
Yeah.
Jason, wouldn't we require that now, XL decel lanes?
Just thinking about it, if those properties were developed, I think they would be substantial enough that would warrant a traffic study that would look at those, you know, types of.
The need for
improvements to see
that?
if they're necessary or not, yeah.
Okay,
Thank you.
that's all I got.
Anybody else? Joe?
I've got a very general question. I don't know if this is appropriate or not. I'm just wondering about the three parcels, 02020. What's the difference between O and 02, practically speaking, as it relates to these three on the agenda tonight? Anything?
The difference between office, which the next agenda item is proposed to be rezoned to, is that the setbacks are smaller.
Okay.
Then also the uses are more limited, and then the uses for principal permitted uses are limited to no more than 50,000 square feet.
Okay, so
And
size
it
is
is-
an
so-
issue in that decision, or that classification from 02 to O.
Yeah.
Well, or the
and then-
difference between.
Then office service one is in between. I believe that also has some limitations in terms of square footage, and it has less expansive listing of uses than OS2. So of the three office districts, office, OS1, OS2, office is the most restricted in terms of the number of, the types of uses, in terms of the least impact, and in terms of size, of the building itself, or the use itself. And then that goes up as you go to OS1 and OS2 in intensity.
Okay, this is really off the wall. If those three parcels were combined, would the the O go away and would become an O2 because it's part of now the next O2? Or, I know it's not
If the parcels were combined, then I believe there's something in the ordinance that says when you have split zoning, you can, you know, which one has more dominance or whatnot. I would need to look at the ordinance and get you an answer on that. But the
Not urgent.
reasons that the planning commission and previous likely looked at the smallest parcel to be rezoned O was to limit those uses, but also since it's a corner lot, and we can talk about this, I can talk about this more in the next agenda item, it has 2 front yards,
Mhm.
so that further constrains its, the square footage on the site that can be developed.
Okay, kind of getting the flavor of this.
Anybody else? Okay, I guess I would direct that this be, as we did on the last one, put on the agenda for our next month's meeting. Nothing else to be said, we will move on to agenda item F4, PC 2025-008. Township initiated rezoning from R2 multiple family to office. Megan.
Again, I will hit the highlights of how this is different than the other ones. The site is currently zoned R2 multiple family residential. It's 1.175 acres in area, and the parcel is non-conforming in terms of the lot area for the R2 zoning district. It's currently vacant, and it's currently vacant. In terms of its natural features, again, the site slopes from Dixie Highway to the rear of the site with a change in topography of about 10 feet. Per aerial photographs, it appears to be partially wooded. A larger evergreen tree is at the corner of the lot closest to the intersection of Dixie Highway and Pine Ridge. And again, as the other parcels, most likely if it was developed, there'd be some tree removal that would be necessary. And it has the same types of soils as the other parcels. We wanted to note that this subject site meets the minimum lot size and width requirements of the O zoning district, and as a corner lot, as I indicated earlier, it would have 2 front yards, and that setback would be 30 feet. Again, as I indicated earlier, the list of uses are more constrained. First, principal permitted uses, buildings or complexes having a usable area of 50,000 square feet or below is what's principal permitted. And a special land use is allowed for the uses listed as a permitted use, but if it's greater than 50,000 square feet, it would be a special land use. The principal permitted uses are office buildings for any type of the following occupations: executive, administrative, professional, accounting, writing, clerical, stenographer, drafting and sales, medical, dental, or veterinary offices, banks, credit unions, savings and loans, publicly owned buildings, business, private or public schools, and photographic studios. And the only special land uses that are allowed are those uses that I just said, greater than 50,000 square feet. Something that's different of these parcels from the other, again, it's a corner lot, so most likely site access would be from Pine Ridge Drive only, based on how MDOT has treated this area. So then, the Pine Ridge Drive is a 2-lane residential street, so the comings and goings there would definitely affect the people who live on that street. Again, same for utilities, and again, this is consistent with the master plan, but there are some constraints on development.
Thank you. Commission members? At 7:19, I will open the floor for public comment on item 4F, or F4, rather.
Joe, Paul Zackles again, Boca County Facilities Department. Basically, the letter I wrote, read, and applies to this parcel too.
Understood.
This parcel is zoned residential currently. again, from the engineering I've seen and from the complexity of the 4 parcels and the development problems, this was slated to be a detention pond, as far as I know. However, it being residential, and then part of the parcel, which is item number 3, has a residential zoning. The county would be interested in having the larger parcel zoned residential. That would be a benefit, and we could, we do feel that that would be able to be much more marketable in this current market, so that's something we've thought of.
Can I ask you one question?
We've asked that before informally, too.
Are you referring to multifamily R2, which is currently zoned, not just residential? Because there's a big difference between the two.
Yeah, multifamily.
Because the R2 zoning requires 10-acre minimum, I believe.
Yes.
So none of your parcels complied
And
with
they're-
that
And they're not adjacent, so you couldn't look at them
as a
one parcel
unit.
and
But
apply
that would be a, you would be asking for
Yeah.
us. That's always an option, to have an assemblage and then develop them as zoned, or do a PUD and make them whatever, which is really what I think would be an ideal situation. It would be an outcome, would be an ideal situation, is to put them all together, in my opinion, I'm just saying my opinion. Use the small lot as your detention pond, put the other 2 parcels together, do a multifamily development or senior living community or a mixed-use community through the PUD model, and, and then you have a lot of flexibility.
So can we market that, John?
Right.
As you know, you've been around a long time, the 4 parcels were one owner, and it had
Right.
some type of, it has a development agreement that's actually recorded. I don't know if all the parcels have it, but I believe it's recorded. Which, yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
I mean, to be honest with you, I think that would be the
When-
best strategy, because it gives you a lot of parcels, a lot of
But we
retention,
can't control all the other
No.
owners, so,
but,
okay.
so I wouldn't, that would be a challenge for us to say, now let's make it R2, because it doesn't comply with the ordinance, currently. But I think you get the idea of the potential for the parcels. Even with us downzoning it, as you called it, there's still a lot of potential there to do what I think was the original, it sounds like the original intent of the one owner person back in the day, and then it got kind of chopped up,
Yeah, I don't know. Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Anybody else want to say anything? Anybody online? I don't think so. At 7:23, I will close the public hearing. Commission members, any further comments?
Is that enough?
Right on.
Okay, same as last one, I would direct that this be put on next month's agenda. Thank you, everybody. Moving on. G1 PC 2025-002, Isaac Hanna, requesting final site plan approval and special land use of an addition to an existing BP gas station. Megan, as with the last one, it appears they've complied with a lot of our requests. Would you like to summarize the remaining ones?
Sure, just in terms of procedure, the planning commission should note that because of a consent judgment that was on this piece of property, the township board is responsible for any improvement of the expansion of the use on the property. Also, tonight, if you chose to move forward, you would be approving the special, you would be recommending approval of the special land use and the combined site plan. Because when you last saw this, you postponed both of those decisions. In terms of what is before you tonight, basically they've complied with everything that was asked of them in your previous meetings, and also that's in the zoning, in the ordinance. The things that are outstanding is that you need to make 2 decisions: approval or denial of the proposed parking requirement deviation. 52 spaces are provided when 87 are required, and a determination that the bike racks, picnic tables, and trash can are or are not appropriate with the Sasserba Town Center Overlay District. And those particular items are direct quote from the zoning ordinance in terms of those. And if you look at those design regulations, they specify a certain type of, a certain family, if you will, of those street amenities or street furniture. Those are no longer produced, as the applicant has indicated in their cover memo, and so these are close to those. They seem to, it's up to you to determine whether they match. If you had a motion to recommend, what we feel that you should include is the boundary line adjustment for the special land use approval is filed with Oakland County Equalization Division. That would need to be approved by the township before it even went to the Oakland County Division Equalization, so that includes township analysis and approval, and that's an administrative function per state law, township engineer approval, and then fire department approval.
What would be the motion for that particular, for boundary line adjustment? What would we be specifically saying if that was to happen?
So, if you recall that the
drive.
on the drawing, they are moving a property line
Yep, on the southern border.
on the southern
parcel.
border,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
so it shows if that didn't happen and it wasn't filed with the county, essentially they would be building a building that had a deficient setback. So it would create an illegal nonconformity.
I got you, for the side yard there.
Yeah, for the
Right,
side yard.
Okay.
So that's the reason.
So how would our motion read for something, just that these would be
We're just
combined
saying
into
they
one?
need to get that done, or how would you word that?
I would word it as I said it, that the boundary line adjustment for the special land use approval the boundary line adjustment, condition of approval is that the boundary line adjustment is filed with Oakland County Equalization Division.
Okay. Jason, you got anything to add?
I don't. They've addressed all of our final site plan related comments. Everything
Okay.
that's in the letter is basically a checklist for them on the
Okay.
construction drawings.
Thank you. Planning Commission members, bring up anything that you would like the applicant to address, and then I will give them an opportunity to address anything.
I'd like to talk about the fire hydrant location that's, was outlined as there being where it's proposed and where it would be, the fire department would prefer it to be, the difference of those two, as noted in the report. Jason, are you familiar with that?
I'm not, I know we did ask for the water main to be extended across the frontage. I haven't seen the fire marshal report, so is that?
Yeah, he mentioned it. I think he said a preferred location.
He did.
Yeah.
He said it would pass, but he would prefer it to be here, and I just wanna know why that isn't done, or what's the difference, where that note came from, what's
Yeah.
driving it.
And we can coordinate that on the final construction drawings and dive into the details of where that is located and what his recommendation was.
Joe, Belinda, any
I
questions?
had a technical question on that. I remember, because I went up to that and said the line has to be drawn down to accommodate that drive, and it was on the other property parcel. And so you're talking about moving the line, but is that like the opposite of a lot split? Are you combining properties so that you can move that line? So it's like one parcel?
It's called a boundary line adjustment.
That's what it's called
Yeah.
legally?
So you're essentially just moving the line. They're not splitting the parcel, it's just that you're moving the line down to the south. And so what they would need to do is submit that to the township with drawings of before and after, and also a property description, a legal description, that then documents those, and then those would be eventually attached to the deed, when they're recorded at the Oakland County Register of Deeds.
Okay, does one person entity, whatever, own both pieces of property
Yes.
involved in this? Okay, so that makes it easier.
Jim, give me a second, and
Yep.
see if we got any other questions.
No, I'm good.
Linda?
Well, only about the bike racks, picnic tables, and trash cans. So what we've outlined for the Sashabaw corridor are not available, is that what has been said?
Yeah.
So whatever they put there will be similar to?
Well, what
or-
they've shown on the plans.
Okay.
We have to state if we find that meeting
Okay.
the overlay district. I've got two concerns. The plans have two comments written on the plans. One of them says something to the effect that the Sashabaw access configuration to be determined by Road Commission of Oakland County. Your plans show a right turn only lane, but my concern is that that language means exactly what it says, that if Oakland County determines a right turn only is not needed there, that's what you're gonna do. We want a right turn only there. I wanna make sure that's clear. Number two, there's another phrase that references a cross-access easement agreement with the property to the south. I understand the need for that. I have concern because this is a gas station. And where I could envision if that southern property was developed and it generated traffic, and that traffic was cutting through the gas station, I could envision it conflicting with the pedestrian and vehicular traffic in that gas station. Gas stations get a lot of traffic going every which way and a lot of pedestrian traffic. I recognize that if you ever do develop that southern property, we will have an opportunity to see that access and decide if it meets our ordinances and our concerns. But I just want to be upfront and say that how that access interacts with the gas station is something we're concerned about. Anybody else got anything? Okay.
Yeah, I do.
Joe?
Just a quick question. I had forgotten about it until you mentioned that. The traffic is gonna, the northbound traffic to Sashabaw, I mean, leaving the property to go north on Sashabaw, is gonna go up to a roadway or around Tim Hortons about? I'm just is that all been cleared and agreed to and legal and whatnot?
Yeah, I'll go through that.
Yeah, okay, that's good. That was, I just didn't know if that was a done deal. Okay.
Yep.
Go ahead, Jim.
Thank you. Again, it's Jim Epping. I appreciate everyone's time and questions. I'll go through them one at a time. We'll address everything. I do want, just for a point of clarification, my records show that at the March 13th meeting of 2025, the Planning Commission granted preliminary site plan approval as well as granted special land use approval. And from my point of view, according to the minutes, Mr. Morocco made the motion, Mr. Ritchie seconded, Mr. Lohmeyer was absent, and the rest of the commission voted in the affirmative to grant preliminary site plan approval and special land use approval, according to the minutes I'm looking at. So I think we already have that. Perhaps it's a non-issue. Perhaps we'd be considered for it again tonight. But I think that was already covered through that preliminary. We're now at that final stage. So we were back again in July. The commission tabled us in July with the set of those 9 conditions, anywhere from the typo on the word ginkgo to some of the probably the biggest issue is that right-out issue. So in March, you granted preliminary approval and special land use approval. You would then table us for final in July. Now we're back again tonight asking for final.
Megan, are you pulling up those minutes?
I was trying to get up his presentation, but I will do that. I will do that if I can.
Okay.
So, but before you make a motion, discussion, I will double check those.
Can I ask Jim a question real quick while she's doing that?
Sure.
Jim, if you guys are just doing a lot adjustment instead of an assemblage, what could possibly be built south of this? on
So,
what's
so
left?
that's, the boundary adjustment is new to us. What we had discussed at the last minute meeting, what we have put in our proposal and what we're planning on doing is a split and combination. The southern property owned by Mr. Hanna is also the same owner as the gas station. At the last planning commission meeting, your commission, and we agreed and our plans show it, that southern property, which is adjacent to the right-of-way, the 75 right-of-way, is dually zoned. And we agreed that we would split that property, join the southern part immediately adjacent to this property into one parcel, right from the, let's say, Tim Hortons down south to the 75 corridor. Megan, I think if you go to the last slide of this, I think we just have 4 slides, you'll see that.
Yeah, 'cause
So that becomes MS. The back half splits and then gets combined with the C2 behind it. So the southern parcel will essentially cease to exist.
That's what I was,
Yep.
that's
Yeah.
what, that's
Yeah.
what I was
Yeah.
expecting, that there was no
Yeah.
risk of anything being,
Development, right.
Well,
anything being built south of the landscaping that you're putting around the picnic area or whatever, that's all one parcel.
it's all one parcel. It may or may not be developed in the future. That's all under, different things. We're not proposing anything. If anything could be developed, it would be small. It would obviously go through the planning department. It would obviously go through this whole process. But based on our conversation, that, the southern parcel goes away. If we say right now there are 3 parcels, based on your direction and our agreement, there will ultimately be 2 parcels. An MS with the service station, and then a C2 with that larger area behind it.
For confirmation, the 2 green spots become one, and there can never be anything else done on the southern green piece.
I don't know that that's true. The 2 will become one. There are no plans to do anything else on the southern piece.
What could well, the ordinance is pretty good, and the setbacks and the boundaries and access, like it would be part of the gas station if you could do something.
An example may be the gas station 15 years from now could be expanded again to put, another 2,000 feet on it perhaps. And, the land is
no
still there.
separate project, no separate building, like outside of the gas station project itself. So you're basically doing an assemblage of north and south, but the part to the west is, we're not making you assemble the whole entire southern parcel, just the part, just what aligns with the MS zoning gas station, like it's depicted there.
Well, I think they're 2 very separate questions. Are we doing an assemblage and joining the zoning? Yes. Are we committing to never build anything for the next 100 years in addition to that? I don't know. I think we would come back and follow the process if that was the case. At this point, we have no plans.
Right.
But I don't think as part of this approval, we want to commit to never looking at it.
No, but I want to make sure it can't be sold for some other little thing that's going to go on there that's separate, that's not part of the gas station.
Under that scenario, you'd have to do another split and combination. We'd have to come back, and so I can't imagine that happening. But,
Because I think from
you'd
our
have to go
point
through
of
the
view, the
process.
aesthetics, we don't, the gas station, even though we're letting you move it south, we don't want it to keep getting closer and closer to the highway and not be able to have some sort of landscaping, or buffering around it. So that was what I think the whole intent of assembling it was that we weren't gonna see then another building. Now, if you say expansion of the gas station in the future, that's your right as a bigger piece of property. That's a different story.
That was an illustrative example based on, a hypothetical question. What I'm saying is that we've agreed to assemble that property into one, that I don't think without doing another split and combination, coming before this board, coming before the township board, that we could parcel it off again in the future and put, an ice cream stand there or anything else. But if the applicant 15 years from now, or the owner 15 years from now, 5 years from now, whatever, comes back and says, hey, I want to do this, and it meets the ordinance, and we go through the process, that could theoretically happen. We're not proposing as part of this to put any constraints on that other than what the Planning Commission has already directed us to do.
Okay.
What's the cross access easement agreement for?
So the cross-access easement agreement, I believe, would refer to the ring road that goes around the back of Tim Hortons and joins into it. That is technically on the C2 property. Again,
Well,
Mr. Hanna owns that, and so there would have to be an agreement between those two properties that that northern exit could be used by this property.
On the plans, it's actually, that comment is displayed on the southern end of
You know what page, Mr. Scarborough?
C6. Sort of close to where the sidewalk comes around to the back.
Yep, I see that.
Packet page 52.
Yeah, I mean, Chad, could you take a look at this? I believe that that is an erroneous note from the earlier plan, but our engineer, Chad, is here. Is that still relevant when that all becomes one piece of property?
Chad Holdwick with the Umler Group, the civil engineer on the project. Jim's correct. That is a note that's just a carryover from a previous rendition. As you remember, the previous rendition had the lot line that was being moved south, let's just say 20 feet, and now that's been changed and modified as discussed. So that's correct. That can be ignored. That's no longer. There is, while on the conversation, as you'll see in the plan set, there is a detention basin to the west. There will be an agreement. Again, it's between the applicant and the owner, is the same between the properties. That may be something that could be discussed, but that is like going to be a shared agreement to utilize a detention area to the west. So I guess while we're on the topic, that's just something to note, but that note is incorrect.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, John. Good catch. Thanks for pointing that out, but is that, so as it relates to the property, that note is irrelevant because it's all gonna be one piece of property. The cross-access easement, and you'll see it in the site plan package, is that the detention for this is off to the side with the idea that if that rear parcel ever gets developed, that they would have a shared detention. And so, you know, there'd have to be some type of shared utility, probably not a shared access easement, but some type of shared utility for that.
Okay, and the road commission comment?
So our plans clearly show that we have a right full movement in, a right out, as the Planning Commission had stated. Mr. Sucher, absolutely anybody that was exiting the station and wanted to travel north on Sashaba would be directed by signage that number one, they could not make a left-hand turn leaving the station. They'd have to go around the back to that existing driveway and turn north there. That existing northern driveway, let's say, would be full access all the way. In terms of the road commission, I think we're just acknowledging that the road commission has the final jurisdiction of any curb cut there. We're submitting our plans as is. We are not trying to pull any, bait or switch or fast one. We have agreed to put in a right out turn there, and the assumption is that we'll modify that entrance island. Now, the road commission certainly will have final say in the geometric of that. They may say, make it bigger, make it smaller, take it out, and just whatever the case, they'll have final jurisdiction. Our intent, our commitment to you is to have a right out there.
Okay, thank you.
This is a condo, isn't it? The whole complex is tied
I believe
together
it is.
in a condominium
I believe it is.
document?
I
All
believe-
those parcels, right? Weren't they back in a consent judgment? Weren't they all, wasn't it a condominium?
I believe you're right, yep.
So is there some sort of already a agreement between all the parcel owners in this, or has to be some sort of joint agreement? Because that retention pond was designed originally to accommodate multiple parcels in the development, not just one, right? Wasn't that based upon the the assemblage or condominium agreement?
The only parcel in the condominium that is not owned by Mr. Hanna is Tim Hortons. The only detention, Tim Hortons has its own underground storage. It drains, you know, they store their own water, they release it into Sashaba. The only current detention on this property is a very small detention right behind the existing station. That's going to be removed. It's going to be brought into the other part of that southern property. So the eastern half of the southern property gets joined into this. The western part of the southern property gets joined into the C2. You'll see on your site plans that the detention, the larger detention, is on that C2 southern part. If and when that larger western C2 parcel gets developed, depending on what those uses are, that detention likely would stay in exactly that same location, but may get expanded. And then there'd have to be some type of an agreement, whether Mr. Hanna at that point decides to just turn it into one parcel, split it into others, whatever, he would control that condo and would make those agreements.
Okay.
Fire hydrant?
The fire hydrant, again, I may call Chad back up for that. We had, as Mr. Longhurst indicated, are expanding the water all the way to the southern end of the southern parcel, or I guess it's probably on the MS property now because of Sashaba and where 75 is. I think the way the fire marshal had indicated in his letter is that he would prefer it back there with anticipation of what might happen in the back. We had agreed with him, and I think it's part of the final engineering that we'll go through and work with the city's engineer, with the fire department. Our concern with that, and if I misspeak, Chad will correct me, is that, again, as we had indicated early on, not knowing what may ultimately happen on that southern and on that western parcel, that access road may change. We may bring it out further, we may adjust it. We said we committed to always having access, but that road may change sometime in the future if that western parcel is ever developed. Our concern is to bring the fire hydrant, bring additional utilities back there, and then ultimately change those. It may compound that change if and when it happens. From an access point of view, our belief is Noah and Frous will verify it, and then ultimately the fire department through final engineering that they have full access with the existing fire hydrant and our newly proposed fire hydrant.
Okay. Does anybody else have any questions for Mr.?
I got a hypothetical one, since we're in hypotheticals. Is there any remote chance that the road commission could take a look at this whole thing and say, oops, no right out only, no out at all at that location, and you all the traffic has to go around Tim Hortons? Is that possible? They could do something weird like that?
I can't speak for the road commission, but I would say that would be very unlikely that they would eliminate an exit altogether, just because, essentially then that would become a landlocked piece of property.
Right. Yeah, I was just thinking, and again, hypothetically, well, you're expanding it, you're putting more cars into that area, it's too close to the, down to 75, we're gonna make you push everything up farther. But I don't see that as practically happening, yes.
I don't think so. We can go through it, but again, you outlined about 9 different points. We feel as though we've addressed those. We're in agreement to join the properties as we talked about. We talked about the right out. The Sashaba design standards, I have an image of those benches. They're in your packet. We were part of the team with Carlisle 20 years ago that wrote those standards. I think they just need to be refreshed, because I know the brick pavers, I know the color of the stone, a lot of those things just frankly aren't manufactured anymore. With some of the different things around town with the field stone on the columns, we've had to hustle a little bit to come up with a suitable replacement. So I'm sure Megan's office is working at maybe refreshing those, or the planning commission. Lighting, we addressed the lighting, both the Kelvin temperature of the canopy as well as the dark sky initiative, where they reduced to 50% 1 hour after operations. We talked about just acknowledging the fact that that road may change, but there aren't any plans at this point to do that. I think I've hit all those things. If there's questions, we appreciate it.
Let's talk about the parking. Let's just go through the list of stuff we know. Now, what we got 3 different businesses, so are you, like, how many employees are we anticipating? 20? More than 20?
Oh my gosh, no. At any given time, we think that the station would have 6. I'm sorry, I'm thinking 6, I'm already ahead, 6 total typically. A restaurant would typically have 2, the other restaurant would have 2, and the gas station would have 2. If we assume that there's maybe managers in at the same time and others, is it fair to say, Isaac, at any, at a peak time, there might be 8 employees in there?
What kind of food place that's only got 2 employees? I mean, what kind of food are we talking about?
As we talked about before, we don't have any signed leases. We're talking to people. It's very difficult to sign a lease when we still don't, know how far we are from construction. Mr. Han has always said that these are probably some type of quick service counter, chicken type sandwich
Right, but
shop.
I mean, if you do like a Burger King, not Burger King, let's say, not gonna be a McDonald's, but say you did, some of the gas stations have
Arby's
Arby's in them, they got sub shops in them. Now, sub shop might be a 2 to 3 person operation, but anything bigger than that, could be.
So is burgers. Most of the stuff is coming in pre-made and stuff. Even this burger joint in the gas station here, if you go in at any time, the most they'll have is 3.
Right.
Most of the time, I'd say 85% of the time it's 3 people.
All right, well, let's say 10 people.
Okay.
So you're saying you feel comfortable with 42 transient spots for transient people out of the 52? Is that where you're, like, we're going from 87, which I think is high, you're gonna have 3 separate uses. Most of the gas station people are probably gonna double up and patronize the restaurant, one of the restaurants possibly too, I would think, you know what I mean? I'm not trying to get more parking, I just wanna I want you to make sense of it,
So we looked closely at it. Right now, I believe we've got about, although they're not fully marked, we've got about, I think it's 17 spots. There's not a whole lot of spots there. I think when you count the pumps, we're at about 23, something like that. We're more than doubling that. When we look at the Shell station, which was, a new construction, it's about the same size store. It only has 1 restaurant. I think they're at about 14 spots plus the pumps. So they're significantly less than us. I live right around here. I keep an eye on that. They're really not at capacity from a parking point of view, really ever. Isaac and his team own nearly a dozen or more gas stations up and down 75, and so they've got a real track record of understanding the businesses. So I don't have all the data in front of me. We talked about this in March and in July, and at that point, I think that we had shown that the Independence Township standards, frankly, I think are just a little too aggressive in terms of 87. 52 is about 2/3 of that, and it's more than double what we have now, even with the expansion.
And I believe the board did say.
We gotta justify it. We're altering our ordinance, and I wanna make sure that we're all understanding of why we're doing it, I don't want more impervious surface for no reason.
We did, the board talked about at one point land bank parking. We looked at that and we just thought it just made more sense to build it now. And that's what we're proposing to do, is build all 52 of those.
I think there's room on the site if you had to do more, let's say it became a problem, but not that I would think you would, but whenever we're deviating, I wanna make sure we got a backup plan. If uses change, owners change, things change, that we're not putting in facilities that can't meet can't sustain, but, it certainly looks like plenty of parking.
And I agree with you. There's a lot of land, so, if we said, hey, we need another 2 or another 10,
Right.
we'd come back to you with that.
I do like the idea that the electric charging spots are on probably the most conflicting traffic area, so there would be less in and out because of that, because they're the electric charging spots. That was a concern of, we're gonna be directing a lot of traffic down that, the north side, and we don't want a bunch of cars pulling in and out of those spots, so I don't know if that was the brainchild of one of your engineers to make those the electric spots, but it does serve that purpose as.
Technically, I was the brain parent.
You were the brainchild on that one, okay. Well, it makes sense whether, you know, not have, that's gonna be the problem.
It's the fewest
spot.
conflicts.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Jason, got anything? Melinda?
No,
Joe?
no, we covered it.
Megan, the way he explained the combination of the two parcels, do we still need that?
What I would do is I would change, on page 7 of our letter, I would change item 1 to the lot split and combination per the special land use approval as filed with Oakland County Equalization Division. And then per also your discussion, you may wanna add another condition of approval, removal of the cross-access easement note shown on page 6 of the submitted site plan. Page C6, excuse me.
And, did you get a chance to check those minutes?
Yes, Mr. Evick was definitely correct and I was wrong. So this would only be,
Site plan.
a recommendation of the final site plan.
Thank you for keeping us in check.
It takes a village, or a township.
How do we feel about the bike racks and picnic tables?
I'm good.
That just that arc thing is the bike rack?
Yeah, I think the next slide shows,
They don't
There it is
make
on
the
the left.
bicycle-looking bike rack anymore that we use around the township that looks like a bicycle?
no.
You see them at the cemetery and stuff, have you seen them around? I don't know what the
I
ones
know-
on
I know what-
Sashabah look like.
I know what you mean. We're going for something a little sleeker.
Yeah, that's sleek. And the bolt-down tables, you think that's a better setup than like the U-line, heavy-duty, rubber-coated, you know, Dairy Queen style, one-piece, you know, heavy-duty units
Picnic
than,
table.
you know, having individual stuff?
In my opinion, I didn't think that the Dairy Queen style matched with the Sashbala overlay standards, so we looked at those and we tried to come up with something similar.
Okay.
What I like about these is they also have a ADA version, so they, you know, the way they're configured, you can have one table with full seating and one table with ADA capacity, so
Is that just missing a chair?
it has an open spot, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm okay with those.
And we haven't bolted down, you know, obviously they're gonna be heavy, but it's kind of an open area and it, you know, we don't want them to blow around.
I like the bolted down feature.
We can continue to work with the planning department if those aren't acceptable, but that was
I
our
don't care
reasoning.
what, I'm fine with what you got, personally.
Everybody good? Somebody wanna make a motion?
This one's way too complicated, got too many words.
I got a lot of notes here. I'll take a stab at it. I motion that the planning commission recommend township board grant final site plan approval for PC file, 2025-002, Isaac Hanna. Conditioned upon bike racks and picnic tables do meet the requirements of the Sashaba Town Center Overlay District. We didn't discuss the wall signs, but I would like to include it, subject to administrative approval of the wall signs. I'm doing that because you haven't provided any detail. Approval of the deviation in the parking requirements. We are approving that deviation. That the lot split and combination of the parcels be filed with Oakland County. The engineering letter dated 12/5. Fire department approval and removal of the reference on engineering plan number C6 to the cross-access easement. I think I got everything.
Support.
The boundary line.
No, Megan said we could change, I put something in place of that. Sam, support it? Roll.
Jason Borsheim,
Yes.
Sam Morocco,
Yes.
Paul Scarborough.
Yes,
Melinda Village, yes. Joe Sutra.
Yes.
thank you.
Thank you, appreciate your time.
Next item, G2, 2026 Planning Commission meeting schedule. Unless anybody has an issue with that, how about somebody make a motion?
I'll make a motion to accept the 2026 Planning Commission meeting schedule.
Support.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Next item, administrative approval discussion. So it was brought to my attention that a building on Sashaba had a reasonably large addition added to it, and it never came in front of the planning commission. So I looked into it and discovered that our
This is what's new.
our
It's a
ordinance.
garage in the back.
Yeah, well, yes, they're resurfacing the whole front.
No, it's on M15,
M15,
just north
right?
of
What did I
I-75,
say?
Sashaba.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Forgive me. The portion in the back without the shingled roof is the new portion.
Yep. It's like a garage,
Yeah.
couple big garage doors.
Yeah, it's an electrical company's gonna be in the office of a local electrical company. I know that because I use this guy for full disclosure.
Okay.
But, and that's the garage in the back for the trucks.
Mm-hmm.
This was an old dilapidated
Yeah, it
building
was a
that
wreck.
is being, repurposed and revitalized, but,
Mm-hmm.
that's not what we're talking about right now. We're talking about how it
Yeah.
got, what the process was,
Okay.
you know?
So I looked at our ordinance and section 6.09 administrative approval. I'm just gonna read certain key points. The zoning administrator may approve the site plan without submission to the planning commission for the following: accessory uses incidental to an existing conforming use, expansion or addition to an existing conforming use where said site plan conforms with all requirements of this section, provisions of accessory storage buildings in all zoning districts. Pretty much that's what it says. And the way I read that is administrative approval can approve any accessory building, can approve any size addition. If you have a the 50,000 square foot building, it could approve a 50,000 square foot addition. And it can approve any accessory storage building.
Yeah.
Then down in section B, it says, the zoning administrator shall prepare a report of each and every site plan submitted in accordance with this section. And I'm gonna cut to the chase, and that report gets reported to the planning commission every month, or whenever they do it. That's never been done.
I was gonna say, I've never heard that.
No, it's never been done.
So I pulled up Springfield, Oxford, and Lake Orion townships, aspects of their ordinances that deal with administrative approval, and looked at their limitations. And they have limitations. And I'm glad to share those ordinances with you. Yes, I have them with me. But in summary, these are some of the key limitations that I pulled out of those three. And for benefit of the audience, I'll read them. Expansion or reduction of an existing proposed structure or use of 3,000 square feet or 15%. Those varied from one to the other, and I'm not suggesting those are the amounts we use, or additional or reductions in parking, site elevations and stormwater management, improvements to site access, modifications to existing and approved landscape screening, new signage, moving a building less than 10%, 10 feet or 5%, changes in building height that don't create a additional floor area, increase in parking or loading up to 20%, internal reconfiguration of parking provided the number of spaces remains the same, stormwater management improvements, relocation of existing stormwater, relocation of trash to acceptable costs. I'm looking,
I'm okay with the last one. That's about all the authority I think you should give the administration, is where you can put the trash can unless we know about it,
Well,
you
I
know?
respect that opinion. Mine's not quite that drastic. I don't,
Well, you just threw that one out there. I was
Yeah.
gonna give you a
I
different
don't,
example.
I don't want to be burdened with having to review a lot of little minor amendments. But I think the language we have is just way too general. And I think we need to decide if the reporting requirement needs to be followed or not.
Was this one approved on an administrative
Yes.
Okay.
That's my
So
understanding.
so I've been here a long time, and I've seen a lot of bad administrative decisions going on. We just found one the other day when they administratively approved an illegal sign and said it was conforming and it wasn't. So that was a red flag. I know of an example where a person had a building that was residentially zoned, and they had a special land use to use it as a commercial building, and then the building sold and sat vacant for 2 years, and it sold 3 different times, then somebody bought it and administratively allowed it to stay a commercial building. Like, in the 20 years I've been here, I've seen lots of bad administrative decisions.
Well,
Now, let me just finish.
Go
So
ahead.
I agree with cutting the red tape, but in my opinion, if there's something that is, you know, reasonable request that doesn't need to go to the planning commission and, you know, or something, in order to save time and not get 21 days in advance and then submit it and get it on the agenda and all that, then I think the ability, what I think this amendment, this ordinance is that the administrative person, and here's where it gets a little cloudy, because if we're subcontracting administrative, or if we have an employee that's doing administrative, there's a little bit difference of education, things, history of the township, the way things are done. It can be varied in many ways, you know? So if you were to say to me, hey, this guy wants to add this garage on the back of the building, it meets all the setbacks, it meets the requirements. Now, we didn't talk about his finishes. We don't know if he's putting vinyl siding on the building, which is illegal in the township. You know, we don't know what was approved. But a commercial building's being completely built from the ground up, and we have no idea what's happening as a planning commission. We don't know if it meets the architectural standards of the district or the overlay. Now, we would expect our administrator to know that.
Who approved that?
But my point is that if, say there was something that needed to be done, I'm in favor of, because of the report clause, that they come to, because we have a planning commission meeting every month, and it used to be 2 a month, so it was pretty frequent. When this ordinance was written, it was probably 2 meetings a month. For an administrator to come to us, say, hey, somebody came to me, he's gonna do this, it meets the requirements, it's in a report, here you go, do you guys, should I have them come in front of you, or is it cool to just let it go forward? Saves them 6 to 8 weeks of, you know, getting on the agenda, putting a packet together, coming in front of us, but we know in advance what is being approved. And that's what the ordinance, I think the spirit of the ordinance is, that hasn't been followed, or else it wouldn't be in here that you gotta bring it to the planning commission to just tell us what you're up to, and then it says if we think it's a little more than we feel comfortable with, then with a vote of the planning commission, we can require it to formally go through the process. You know, if I'm wrong, Megan, you know, correct, because this has never been implemented or followed since I've been on the planning commission for 20 years. So I like the idea that there's an ability to fast track improvements, make changes without dragging it through the whole process if it's minor in nature. You know, but what we're seeing is large things happening, significant things happening. We don't know about it, and they're just going, oh, I approved it administratively. But who's the administrator? Today, Megan's our administrator. You know, 2 months ago it was somebody else. A year from now it could be somebody else. This is an ordinance that goes on for perpetuity. So there's got to be some. It's just like in the building department, and Dave's now here, but you know, a building official doesn't get to just willy-nilly just approve stuff without a permit or going through a review or, you know, so I don't think that the part about the report is clear, like how that works and how that
Yeah.
should come to us, you know what I mean? But I do think that, like, the provision to, if you could put an accessory, the provisions of an accessory structure, I don't know if that means the building of it or the placement of it, but we don't want to not know if somebody's changing the site plan significantly as the, you know what I mean? And for two reasons, like, say it blows up in our face and this building gets built with vinyl siding, and we go back to the guy and say, you know, hey, he goes, hey, it was administratively approved. We don't, you know, we just, I think there's a lack of control. You have certain trust, but there's a balance of, the reason there is a planning commission is so that there's more than one eye looking at it. So I think there's a way that we can do both. We can, you know, have a little latitude, but then, and cut some time off of the process. But again, I don't know what the real process is because we've never been exposed to it.
So, in my experience working with multiple communities, your administrative approval process and also what it outlines that is eligible for administrative approval is unusual. Usually it outlines very specific circumstances, as Chair Scarborough has listed with some other communities. And then if there is a reporting mechanism, it is after the fact. So, for instance, in Dexter Township, where is another one of my clients, there was an administrative approval of a site plan, and I was required to put down on paper how it met the ordinance, and then that was in the planning commission's next packet. And that was how they got that feedback loop that this is what occurred. This, preparing a report before they, and also usually, I'm gonna go back, usually in the zoning ordinance, what it says is that the zoning administrator can always require that the administrative site plan goes to the planning commission. So they have the ability to push something up even though, let's say, it qualified under one of the things. Yours is very unusual in that it's very broad, but then it gives the planning commission the ability before the administrator approves it, to kind of have their say and say whether they wanna take it. All of this is allowed under state law. The Michigan Zoning Enabling Act doesn't define what's an administrative approval or what's not in terms of site plan. It just says you need to have a process and that needs to be in your zoning ordinance. What I would advise you to think about, if you're choosing to looking at this and zoning amendments, zoning ordinance amendments, is what do you wanna make easy? What are the things that should just be approved and don't need to come to you? Because what happens then is if you then have a stopgap measure that books extra time, that's extra money in many cases, and then some people just don't do it when they find. So it might result in more buildings being blighted, things like that, or parking lots not being maintained. So if there are certain things where you feel like, you know, along Dixie Highway we don't have parking lots maintained, while if somebody wants to, if they wanna improve their parking lot and take away spaces, or they're gonna add a dumpster and it takes away spaces, as long as they meet the ordinance, that might be fine. So think about what you want and what your goals are in terms of looking at site plans, where you need that scrutiny and where you don't.
Well, to that, that's a perfect example, because maybe we don't want the administrator to decide which spots get moved and where the dumpster goes on the site without input. So I mean, to me, that's a gift if you get to have somebody, you know, bypass all the rigmarole of the planning commission, putting money in escrow, doing this, doing that. I think it's a gift for us to say, if there's something that should be administratively approved, the planning commission meets on the, you know, the third Thursday of the month. I'll run it by them, and if they're good with it, you can run forward. If you're not, you gotta go back to the thing, and you save them all, you know, it's just not, you have to go to the planning commission. I think that's what I think the spirit of it was. But I think that to protect, you know, we've got all these overlays, we got, you know, I just think that to leave that in the, to have, I guess I don't, you know, how fine do you get? How many scenarios are there? And how much administrative stuff is getting approved that we know nothing about because the ordinance isn't being followed or hasn't been being followed by the past staff, you know? So we don't even know what is going, I mean, I find out about stuff later that, oh, that got administratively approved. Well, how?
And who's
Because,
the administrator?
because, you know, who's overseeing the administrator on the administrative approvals? Because there has been cases where proven cases that the administrator approved things that shouldn't have been approved. And then does it put the administrator in the position where he's doing people favors? He's cutting corners. He's got the ability to slide it through and nobody knows about it. You know what I mean? All of that, these checks and balances we have, or is it gonna, is it get to the point where some petitioners go to the planning commission and then they complain that other guys just got to do stuff and they didn't have to go through it? So I think you do have to at least take the time to run it by somebody to say, this is pretty minor, can we just bypass the planning commission and sign off on it? You know what I mean?
Megan.
Before you do it, after you do it seems kinda silly.
Megan, question for you. The way ours is currently written, the reporting requirement, do you think, because I find it very confusing what it says there, do you think it should be interpreted to mean that everything gets reported to the planning commission before he grants administrative approval? And it is effectively what Sam is suggesting.
Yes, that's the way I would read this. I think it could be stated more explicitly. I would also, if you chose to go that route, I would say that provision of accessory storage buildings in all zoning districts might be, like, do you want every residential shed coming to you?
No.
I think that these things could be a little more precise, and there might be things where you might wanna put limitations on it i.e., maybe for anything in an overlay district, like Sashaba or Dixie, that there's not administrative approvals. I think on Sashaba that works, because you have a high standard and people are used to that. Also, I think with Dixie, there might be, that might be one of those places where you're accidentally causing some blight or causing some property owners to hold off. That's my initial reaction, and as you discuss this, you could go forward.
And I don't think that how it's gonna slow anything down if you have a person that comes in and says, hey, I wanna do this, and the administrator says, that's pretty minor, let me run it by the planning commission at the next meeting, and if they give it a green light, you can run with it. That's kinda what this is saying.
And an option, I think it was Springfield, actually had, I forget what they called it, but I would call it an administrative approval subcommittee of the planning commission.
I like the idea of just having, like you said, an administrative approval, but running it past the planning commission prior to any construction. I mean.
Prior to granting that administrative approval.
Yeah, I guess not knowing what has been what comes in that's administrative, we don't really, I know the cases that were administratively approved that went wrong. I don't know that there isn't hundreds of them that we never noticed that were fine. You know what I mean? Because we don't know, we have no idea how many things have been administratively approved over the years.
Mhm.
So, do you, Megan, have any idea?
No, I do not have any.
I mean, this looks like a pretty big job
Yeah.
here.
Dave, do you have any input on this? No? Okay.
I mean, we really don't know how relevant this is or how often it happens,
Well,
so.
I can say as long as I'm sitting in this chair, and when we get to, reports, I can tell you what's going on with the planning department, but the way I read this is that if someone came in and qualified for administrative approval, what I would need to do is prepare a report, tell them I need to report to the planning commission. It could either be one or two things, is that they agree with my assessment, and then the next day you can file for building permits, or that you may need to submit an a more exhaustive site plan, if they choose to have it come to the planning commission. But the way I read this is that, upon request of the full majority of the members of the planning commission, any site plan shall be fully reviewed and the recommendation made thereon by the planning commission. So it might be that you make a recommendation, or you postpone it and ask for more things.
Was there any kind of a report for administrative approval on this property?
Not that I'm aware of, and I've been at every planning commission meeting that you've been to. Typically, though, what happens is, again, I'm saying that your section is very unusual. So back to the Dexter Township one that I said, that was for utility, it was for consumers. They said anything that was for a utility, expansion and utility, that, and it specifically listed this use, that was an administrative site plan. And so, once it was reviewed and approved, they got their permits, and then we gave a report to the planning commission after the fact. The planning commission wasn't involved in that decision at all. They were reported to and brought up to date.
But they knew about it afterwards, at least.
Well, yeah, and well, they knew about it before when it went
Yeah.
up, because it's a small town and people drive by and
Yeah.
things like that, so.
Well, would it happen in Dexter if the planning commission said, you know, we don't like this,
Then that doesn't matter.
it's already done?
It's already done,
Okay.
it's an administrative approval.
That's what I figured.
Yeah.
Well, that's because this, you know, it starts off, the zoning administrator may approve the site plan without submitting to the planning commission, but subject to everything in the township. Well, we have a lot of stuff that's subject to everything in the township, and we still put our spin on it and talk about it and, you know, make sure that it complies. And there's stuff that, it's just, I don't know how to solve the problem, but I don't see that, I wanna try to make it faster for people for insignificant little tweaks that, you know, but where's the line of what comes to the planning commission? You know, that's really where, we don't really have it. This is like, so we say a site plan improvement needs to come to the planning commission, but this says the site plan doesn't need to come to the planning commission if the planning administrator feels it's in compliance.
Jason, you any
For an
thought?
accessory use, an expansion or addition, provision of an accessory storage building, or increases in off-street parking buildings or structures, unloading spaces, and just in commercial and zoning, in industrial zoning districts, and landscaping. So, like, if someone wanted to come in and put more trees, I don't know, would you object?
No, but
No.
what if they wanna take down some trees because they wanna put in a shed, you know? Huh?
Right, but do you wanna do that to an individual, property?
What I'm saying is, I don't
Single-family
necessarily wanna
home?
run them through the ringer 2 months and get on the list 21 days and all that. All I'm saying is, when this ordinance was written, and if it was followed, we used to meet every 2 weeks. And I did that for years and years and years. So it would have been like, within a week or so, you'd be at a meeting and you'd say, hey, a guy stopped by, wants to do this, what do you think? We don't need to look at it, you know, boom. That's what, I think that latitude needs to be there for insignificant little things, but the checks and balances. So now that you're not an employee of the township.
Nope.
And you could, let's say you become the president of Carlisle and Wortman, and then they give us another planner, you know, to come in here, and they don't know it, they never been an independent, you know, they don't know. There's just a lot of, there's just a lot of skeptical things that could happen in a lot of different ways. So I think that Bill's right. There needs to be some sort of, we gotta dial it in somehow where we all feel comfortable, but yet not hamstring still have some flexibility to, now maybe it's not fast tracked by, they walk in the door, you go, yeah, it's good, and you leave. Maybe there is a delay to the, next meeting, and then it's officially approved, or we have the percentages or a guideline. But I do think this is a little bit risky and vague.
Megan, if we were to start reporting to the planning commission administrative approvals, you are the person that would do that?
At this point, yes.
And you are the person, okay.
Do you feel comfortable doing administrative decisions without the planning commission knowing on and on how many items and to what extent?
So, to me, this is clear. I mean, what I do is I follow the ordinance, and I would hope anyone who works for my company would follow this is your local law. It should be followed. End stop. So, to me, it's pretty clear, if it's an accessory use, that's an existing conformity without a variance, and the said site plan conforms to all the requirements of the section, then I would take their plot plan, I would write up a report, I would bring it to you at your next meeting, we'd have an agenda item on that, and there would be a discussion. And if I thought it could be approved, then I would strongly tell you that. Or maybe there are instances where, I mean, I have been in instances when I was the zoning administrator where I felt it was not appropriate for me to make that administrative decision. Sometimes it's about building materials that somebody wants to sub one for something else, things like that. Those are the ones we tend to always say, let's go back to the planning commission, because some of those were a decision that dealt with aesthetics and taste and compatibility.
Would
that-
you have proved this administratively?
I can't tell you. I mean, I don't know where that is in the context and anything of it, and it doesn't look like it's finished.
Well, it was
so-
an old building that was gutted to the studs and then added on,
Sam,
you
I'm
know.
not gonna answer the question.
Right, I'm just, like, to what, that's what I'm trying to get to, is to, like, how big of an addition
Yeah.
does
Is it-
this tell you you can approve
It
administratively?
it doesn't. And so, but if it was anything more than 10% of the building, I would probably feel uncomfortable and not wanna make that decision.
Well, it
Okay,
sounds
then
like we
that-
just
right.
missed that step where the administrative decisions have not been reported to the planning commission.
Right, and again, I'm gonna say that this is unusual. If you're asking my recommendation of what to do, is I would say to find what your that this administrative approval is limited, like those other, like those other communities, to very specific instances. I would have one for additions, but it could be limited to no more than 10% of the floor area or something like that. And then, but if you have this, and this is very permissive, at the same time, what I would recommend to you is that you need to have a good argument to the township board as to why this is needed. Then, because essentially, it could be perceived that you're taking some property rights away or some flexibility away. And whenever you get into that discussion of property rights or flexibility, it often becomes a difficult conversation.
How, I don't, explain that, how would it be taking property rights away by making it go through the planning commission?
Because you're making it more difficult for an addition to be put on.
We're making the decision, but also,
Oh.
what is an addition? Is it just adding 50 feet, or if it's like this one, taking it back
Well,
to the stud?
anything with the foundations, adding
Isn't-
an addition.
Isn't that just redoing the whole thing though?
So let me simplify it. What if your interpretation and my interpretation was that you have to come to the planning commission to ask to avoid coming to the planning commission. Right? I mean, it's
For
the
you
way
going
this
to
is
full
written.
full
So,
site plan,
do we
yeah.
really need to, because we're very conscious of the fact that we're not getting much funding to get anything done that we want to get
Yes.
done. So I don't want to waste money on something that if we all agree that this is a procedural interpretation that has been, you know, that we all agree, and you agree as our planner, and Dave, who's the head of the department's in the audience watching, agree that this policy says that, yes, we're in favor of administrative decisions, but according to our current ordinance, it needs to be ran by the planning commission
Yep.
prior to approval. And that kind of we just need to, that procedure just needs to be agreed to, that's
I was-
correct, you know?
I was gonna suggest that we don't change anything right now. We have the understanding that the policy as written is that a summary of some form has to come to us, and we have to say, yeah, go ahead, administrative, or we want a full review. And that's what we do, and we run at that for a while to give us a little history of what kind of stuff is done administratively. And then somewhere down the road, depends on how long it takes to get that feel, because nobody has any concept of how many we get.
Mhm.
We revisit it and see if it needs,
Yeah, well, in that situation, if we revisited it, we would be making it more lenient, to find, you'd be, you argue, the
Maybe,
board's, the
yeah.
argument would be is, you're taking the time to run it by the board on stuff you don't need to, and if that's the situation, then the township board can make the decision to become more lenient. As long as we're all interpreting this the way that we all agree that we're interpreting it, I think we're covered,
Did you buy this?
I agree that with the procedure, that I think we are in agreement that what the procedure is that's outlined by the zoning ordinance. In terms of how to move forward with zoning ordinance amendments, I think it is a good idea to go for a certain amount of time, take data, see what
Yeah.
see how it feels, and then see what,
Mm-hmm.
and to see what changes the planning commission may want to suggest to the township board.
Yeah.
Isn't that what he said?
Yeah, kind of, sort of.
She's in
What you
agreement
said,
with
Bill?
that.
yeah.
Yeah, and I
Okay.
would say that I would like to offer that this would not fall under a residential, like a private homeowner.
This
I don't-
doesn't say that.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I think we should clarify that.
Yeah, what it does, it says approved site plan. The site plan's not residential.
So in the example, okay, that's perfect. That's perfect. Because in our
Mhm.
tree ordinance, we spent at length trying to explain to
What a site
everyone
plan was.
that it was what a site plan is, and that we're not trying to go into neighborhoods and say that your shed needs to come under our review process, right? Because then we're gonna be here every day of the month.
Yeah, because above
Yeah.
in 602, yes.
Yeah, so
Yeah, and
did this property have a site plan review? Like, I don't know.
Not if,
Maybe that should be part of his, we
Not
don't
that I
even
know.
know what buildings we should be administratively
Well,
reviewing.
commercial buildings have site plans,
All commercial buildings.
and residential buildings have plot plans.
Yeah.
So
So then
that's
there's
what
the
we made that
distinction.
difference, so that we could do the
Yeah.
tree ordinance. So I think
Okay,
we're on record
Yep.
differentiating that same argument.
okay,
That,
I'm on board with that, yeah.
Cause it says it in here twice. It says the zoning administrator may approve the site plan, and then at the end, the zoning administrator shall prepare a report of each and every site plan submitted. So it keeps referring to, commercial properties.
Yeah, okay,
That
that
gets
meets the
us out
spirit
of
of what I'm trying to
the
say.
residential weeds.
A site plan is not required for new construction or modification to an individual residence.
Okay, perfect. That would be my chief most concern. I don't wanna get into people's
so,
residence,
okay, so we got that understanding, that's the way we'll
Yeah.
do it
and we're gonna take the
until
temperature.
further notice.
Yep, we're gonna take the temperature through data
Mhm.
before
Well,
we
we're gonna
say
follow the ordinance. That we just wanna,
Yeah.
we're just gonna roll with that and see how it works.
Okay,
Do we want to say, we want to review this in 6 months, 4 months, 3 months, or?
Joe, I would love to, I just don't know how long it's gonna take.
But I mean, we can always.
We may
review it
not
in
have an
3 months.
administrative request in that period of
Yeah,
time.
And then we come up in 3 months and we say we can't make it.
Well,
3 more
here's
months.
here's the thing.
I don't
we
want to
are-
lose it, that's all I'm saying.
We're not in a good time to look at this, probably, I'm guessing, because of the temperature, right? Maybe we should visit this in June or May, or when do we get an influx of these types of
Yeah,
requests
good
for
point.
building permits?
Oh, it can be any time, I would
Well-
It can be anytime, but lots of people are starting now, so you
Oh.
typically see an influx.
So they can start construction in the spring.
Yeah, so an influx starts in January, ramps up in March.
Okay.
So
But
this-
do we
this-
wanna collect data for 3 months?
This
and then come back?
administrative approval stuff, though, really isn't for people doing a bunch of construction. That's not its intent to, if they're doing construction, they're doing
Yeah, and
a
then.
site plan.
Guys, I don't think we need to put a time frame on it. That's my preference.
I don't either. I think we acknowledge, I think the biggest thing is that Megan interprets the ordinance the way that we interpret the ordinance, and if the policy and procedures follow the ordinance, it takes care of itself for right now. As long as we're following, we all
Yeah.
agree that this is how we're interpreting it, from what it
Agreed.
says,
Okay.
and we all follow it, or
Okay.
they do.
Anybody want to put that in the minutes?
But we
How
already
we
agree,
interpret it?
Megan agrees that it's awkwardly written, and can I use the word clunky, based on,
I do, but I mean, I would recommend look at it a while, maybe in 6 months we bring it up, we'll see how many we get, see how uncomfortable it feels at different times, and I think then you'd be able to make different decisions. You know, again, taking ordinance amendments to the township board, not just your township board, but in my experience, any township board, once you start bringing these things, then they look at the whole thing. Somebody always has 5 different 6 questions. I think it'd be better to get the data, then look at it, and then,
see what we're dealing with.
see what you're dealing with, yeah.
I like that approach.
Yeah, I think
Personally, I
that's
like
a
that
good,
approach.
good plan.
I mean, the house isn't on fire right now, I don't know why
Well, we needed
this is
to-
definitely a
well-
concern, because it seems like we've got stuff on the books that
Yeah.
nobody's, really following. So now that it's here, okay, we need to do something, but I'm a fan of collecting the data.
Oh, Megan's taken over the, the
Better
thing, so
one,
we
yeah.
got all, just so we're all on the same page with each other, that way we don't have any issues.
So Joe raised the question, should we put something in the minutes? And maybe it's not a bad idea. So.
So we're gonna follow the ordinance?
Yeah.
I'm gonna make,
Right,
Right.
yeah, I'm gonna make a
We're gonna follow the
motion
law.
I agree.
that the planning commission interprets section 6.09 administrative approval to mean that prior to the zoning administrator granting any administrative approvals
Of a site plan.
of a site plan amendment, they are to be run by the planning commission for review and concurrence.
Support.
Agree.
All in favor?
Aye. Well, that's what the ordinance says.
Yeah.
Okay.
Basically, just,
The only question I might have, Sam, is, you said a review of the site plan, and this guy didn't have a site plan, so I mean, how does he slip by?
I think we know the,
I
I
mean,
hear you, Joe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I just wanna make sure that, this is why we're talking about it, and
I guess I
we wanna
don't
make sure we
know.
get that in the net here somehow.
You guys okay with
That's
that?
all.
I don't know the trigger to pull a building permit on a commercial building if a site plan is required, is it?
So if it's a new commercial building, then a site plan would be required. If it's an addition to a commercial building, it could be subject to administrative approval, but would have to run through the process that we just said.
Put another way, if it's a commercial building, something that's been approved by the planning commission at some point in time, there's a site plan on file.
Yeah,
And if they come to us and they wanna put a shed, that's an amendment to the site plan, correct?
correct.
Even though we may not technically require him to submit a brand-new site plan, it's an amendment to the site plan.
Well, but
I'm not worried about the shed as much as like, now we've added, he came in, pulled a permit, got a permit for a whole redo of a building, added, let's say, 800 square feet for the garage area, okay? But we wouldn't know what this, if you're adding square footage, it could change parking requirements, it could
you're
affect, the neighbor, it could have height restrictions, I don't know what the checks and balances are, but I mean, even when we go put an addition on a building, the building department requires some sort of a survey to show that you've got the setbacks have been met and stuff like that, which is a site plan. That doesn't necessarily require that,
Okay.
what level it is, that he spends $5,000 with an engineering firm and has every bit of it done, but there is some
yeah.
document, we're gonna call it a site plan, cause it's a commercial building, whether it's vague or detailed, that shows the thing, and I'm sure that has to be submitted to get a permit.
Yes.
Something on the property that
Okay.
shows it.
I think the motion that I made and seconded and passed is sufficient?
Yeah, I do
You guys
agree.
good? All right, let's
Great.
move on. Okay. Item G4, PUD zoning ordinance amendments. In the October meeting, I presented the findings of our little PUD review committee. A lot of, I think, a lot of people really grasped what we found and determined. Not a lot of surprises, but there was one surprise I know of. David Hayward called me, said he watched it, and he was just blown away by it. He was surprised that and thought it was very well done. So anyway, at that meeting, I asked you guys to review the notes, review our findings. Megan mentioned an Oxford Township PUD ordinance, and she subsequently emailed a link. And the idea was to pick up that conversation at the next planning commission meeting, because I don't want this to die. In an effort to stimulate conversation, I put together what I considered goals or objectives or whatever you want to call. I would like to hear what people think of this. I personally don't know the best way to go about doing this. I don't know if we put it in our PUD ordinance, if we amend our cluster ordinance and make that the only way to do cluster residential developments in the township. I don't know if we eliminate our PRD ordinance, because we don't have a lot of huge parcels. And I need, in my mind, I need consultation with our experts to determine that. These are the goals that I think I would like to see obtained, but I don't know about the best way to do it. And I'm wondering if maybe a subcommittee of the committee, the planning commission, should be established to figure out how to do this and come up with the appropriate amendments. So, first of all, let's talk, you know, we don't need, I don't know, it's getting late. We don't need to spend a lot of time on this. I'd like to hear what you guys have the thoughts are regarding what we want to achieve, not necessarily how we want to achieve it, but what we want to achieve, and about a subcommittee.
Well, as far as the PUD goes, you were referring, my biggest concerns is probably setting a standard of minimums.
Minimum.
Minimums that we allow, you know, what, like when you do a PUD, everything starts from scratch and you can just willy-nilly, whatever you decide, that's how you get, you know, sometimes you get a bad group of people that don't think it through. Like, I think that in a, you know, like, do we have a set standard that if you do a PUD, you know, the main road, has to have a certain setback from the road that's non-negotiable, that's a minimum, you know what I mean?
You could set that.
I mean, those are the things the things that I think went wrong with the PUD across the street was we didn't have any minimum protections, like, you know, when they opened us up to the highway, which was, you know, just dumb, you know, just unnecessary. You know, there was no minimum buffering. There was no minimum off the setback of the road. There was no minimum amenity. Okay, there was no minimum open space. You know, we started with a 17-acre project and the township negotiated us down to 7 and then put it over by the highway instead of in the middle. Like, there was no, like, if you have 70 acres, there should have been, and you want a PUD, there should be a minimum of 15 to 20% open space, you know what I'm saying? That it's non-negotiable, that's your start point, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then there should be a minimum, you know, 100 feet off the road before you get to the first structure. There should be a minimum of 50-foot buffer around the perimeter, no matter whether it's up against commercial or you know, the reason we get in these situations is that it's all interpreted and there's no minimums for anything, like there's no baseline. You know, and I
Yeah.
think that's,
I agree.
I think that's an easy starting point of protection.
Sam?
Yes, sir.
If I may, I've got item 5, more consistent buffering, which minimums would fall in there.
Yeah.
More, better buffering along road frontages. Again, I didn't get specific.
No, right, I know, I think that's where we need to get to and make
Yeah.
recommendations, that we feel like there, you know, there should be
Yeah.
some minimums of, minimums,
For all the requirements, there should be minimums.
and I don't know all the different requirements off the
Well,
top of my
not
head.
all,
I'm just
but-
saying that I like what, where you're, I think that's an easy
Yeah.
thing to sell to the board too, is that, these are the minimum protections. Now, we would hope to get more, and we'll negotiate those with density and other things that we can negotiate, with bringing stuff into the middle and, but I just feel like, to protect us against ourselves, and, you almost have to have a baseline of
I agree.
something,
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I think one of the premise, and I agree with this from what I've seen, is that when a builder wants to do whatever they wanna do, the zoning doesn't matter when they can just say, okay, well, I'll just do a PUD, and then try to negotiate whatever I want. And I think that the spirit of it is we wanna, not have this be a free-for-all.
Well, they're supposed to qualify.
Well, let me
For
get,
the
let me get
P-
to the work. I'm glad that you put in the Oxford information for Oxford, because I think one or more of the items there were saying, prove to me that you deserve a PUD, or prove to me that there's a reason why we're giving you a PUD. Because right now, I think it's just, I'm a developer and I want a PUD so I can do whatever the heck I want, and if I'm smart enough, I might be able to pull the wool over the commission's eyes and get whatever I want. And I kind of feel like people feel that way for the development across the street. However that happened, right?
Oh, yeah,
So,
we got the wool.
If we have these minimum requirements that we can agree on, we still maintain some sort of consistency with the intent of why we're zoning a certain area in the zone, even though some folks are trying to go around it. So I
Well,
think that's reasonable,
yeah.
right?
I don't think they're going around it. We're doing it because, like, across the street, we had probably 4 different zonings that were all intermixed with each other, so we had to find a way to do a joint venture, The thing that got away from us over there too is the benefit, right? You gotta earn a PUD. You gotta ask us, you want a PUD? All right, what are you gonna give me?
Yeah.
Okay, well,
Let's define
over
those
there, the
benefits a
gift
little
they
better.
gave us was that Myers was gonna hold some events on their patio. That was the gift. So how in the world they qualified for a PUD, and you can go back in the minutes, I must have
Oh, yeah,
said it
we
100
looked at
times.
that. We looked at it
Every meeting I
extensively.
say, how do you qualify? And they're like, oh,
Yeah.
they just ignored me. If Myers goes out of business, and they haven't held any events that I'm aware of, so they
Right.
haven't met the PUD requirements, if they go out of business, there's nothing that was done over there that met the requirement of a PUD. We didn't get a single
They had
thing
one.
out of over there
They
for
had
the
one event,
PUD.
I know of. I
Okay.
forget what it was.
Well, whatever, I wasn't invited,
Just
but
to say they
whatever.
did it.
My point is that it was just absurd that we considered that a retailer was going to put on events that were such a benefit to the community that they would qualify for a PUD. When it first started, the 17-acre park that was proposed to be in the middle and everything was gonna be built around it was the benefit.
Yeah,
Then they took out the park and they kept the PUD going.
right.
You know what I mean? So then they had to dream up what's the benefit. Then it was, let's have Myers put a big patio in and hold events at it. So we're in a mess now because if they don't hold events, they don't qualify.
Well,
And
who's even policing that? right?
Nobody. That's my whole point
Yeah.
was,
So,
you know,
to me, we
should
got
there
tough.
be a baseline of the benefit? You know, like
Yeah,
even
I totally
examples,
agree.
you know, like
Totally agree.
20%
There needs to
open
be a
space
baseline.
or this,
There
or,
needs
you
to
know,
be a baseline.
what's the community benefit? Because
Yeah.
that was just crazy. That
Yeah,
didn't
I
have it.
agree.
That's got
Yeah.
no way of policing it.
Yep.
There is no benefit.
We studied in a very concise, and I'm trying to talk concise, but in a quick summary, the commercial developments, we found that we were generally really pleased with overall, and it's the residential ones, we feel like we got burned over and over and over again. So I would think that those are the things that we would take
Yes.
and reevaluate and say, these are the baselines, but especially for residential, and especially since Independence is primarily a residential community. I said this at the last meeting, it's in the minutes, but absolutely, I fully agree 100%. A PUD should, in my
Yeah.
mind, that they shouldn't be a free-for-all.
Right.
I mean, there's,
I think we need the minimums. That's
Yes.
gonna solve a lot of it.
We have a
is to
lot of
have a
creative buildings.
But I
baseline.
think it's more
And
than
that's
that too.
awesome.
I think it's the design structure, the
Yeah.
pedestrian paths,
Well, those are the things you
the
accumulate
quality
as a
of building
benefit, right?
materials.
yeah,
I mean, one of the things I liked about the Oxford one, and I kind of summarized it under
check.
D, where they give modest density increases if you meet certain criteria.
Yeah, I like that.
And it keeps growing, but they cap it. They don't let it get hog wild. And I was originally wanting to get rid of density bonuses altogether. But then I sort of kind of got an appreciation of the fact that you need to provide an incentive to get these developers to do things,
Yeah.
like
Give and take.
more than the minimum setbacks, more than the minimum open space, more than the minimum building materials. You need, so,
Yeah.
I like that concept.
Yeah, we just been giving density bonuses in almost every case I can remember and getting very little for them,
Okay,
you know? So I
Well-
think there's a baseline. If you create a baseline,
that would be, yes.
or, because I've always said, I don't care if they're if everybody's living in shipping containers, but if, I don't want it to have a negative impact on other residents. I don't want to
Yeah.
see it from the road. I don't want, so you can do clustering and tighter things with more benefit. We just got to establish
Yeah.
and I think that all goes into some sort of, the baseline can create, and then you can create things that if you get to this level, say you get 30% open space, maybe you could get a 5% density bonus, if you get to
Yeah.
35, then you can
Yeah.
get a little bit more. And then we would allow your lots to be smaller to meet that criteria. It saves them money on the infrastructure, provides more open space, they save money, the whole cluster option, and you balance it out. We just, in the past, weren't the best negotiators, and I think now that it's come to the forefront and we've seen what that does,
Well,
and it's fair, we want it to be fair, so it's still enticing. You have to have the PUD option because parcels are just zoned all over the place, so you need to have that flexibility.
yes, I would say you need to have the planned development option. Doesn't need to be in a PUD, but it's gotta be some form of a planned development. Whether we change the cluster to make that a form of a planned development. You understand
What
what
do
I'm
you think,
saying?
Megan?
Well, I kinda looked up because, so planned unit development is enabled under the state, under the Michigan Zoning Enabling Act to do certain things. And so it's a certain vehicle, you could have, like right now, you've got, I think, 3 to 4 different types of PUDs. So, like, the PRO, the planned residential development, and the PUD, all of them are PUDs. If you look at how they're enabled through the state legislation. I think what you need to figure out is which ones do you like, which ones, which ones meet your qualifications. I think the PRO does not. And then there are other options too, where if you want any new residential development to be a cluster development, then probably the best option is to say that's a principal permitted use, and any standard subdivision is a special land use. And then if you want a density bonus, you have to go through a planned residential development, and that has those have all those minimums on them. And the cluster has certain minimums on it, but, you know, time
You're
is
trying to help us
money
get there.
to
Yeah.
developers. My experience with developers is if you give them a lot of rules, but you say, at the end, you do these 50 things, and you go through a shorter process with less public scrutiny, they're gonna take that, rather than, unless they really need for their financials to work, more density than your zoning allows. And then they're gonna go to the PUD. Then they want
So-
something with a density bonus.
Yeah. Oxford has a residential planned unit development and a commercial, two separate a commercial plan. You can do that. I mean, that's what I said early on, I need Megan, and somehow we gotta figure out how to do that. I don't know if sitting here at the planning commission,
No, you should probably get a couple people together and go try to hack it out, get a baseline or some sort of
yeah. that
you
was
know,
my- And my thought would be, if that's the way we wanna go, would be, because Joe and Jason were on that PUD review committee, and they have a good understanding. Maybe
You guys
that-
wanna do it?
Yeah.
Well,
I kinda
do we
got a
wait
lot.
until after? We don't even know.
For her and I,
I
right?
think Jason and I don't even
We
know if we're
agree.
gonna be here next month.
So let's assume that,
Yeah.
that, let's assume
Yeah.
that you're, you know, unless you wanna form the committee next month, but I think you're on the right path. I think you gotta get a baseline. The more work we can do behind the scenes and run by and get done for, you know,
Yeah.
instead of having it created by somebody, cause I mean, this is a cut and paste world. There's you've done a lot of research to pick and choose. If we can get if you guys can get something in a subcommittee together for Megan to review, it's gonna be way more cost efficient. You already know how the words are put, you already know how they did it, format it, then we critique it, and then we don't pay her, we don't burn up all of our budget on
Our
that.
hours. Yeah.
Yeah, it's quicker.
Are there, Megan, are there other communities that you're aware of that have the same intent as what we're discussing now? Or are we kind of blazing a new trail?
I wouldn't say you're blazing a new trail.
No, we're playing
So-
catch-up.
I was gonna
That's
say,
good.
it's more like ketchup.
That's what I was hoping you were gonna say.
Right.
Because right now, we, as a township, how many townships are there in Michigan? Are we always, to borrow a phrase I was gonna say earlier, we have this administrative review that seems to have arrived somehow, but it's clunky. And so rather than blazing a new trail, if there are other communities that have already went through this process, it might streamline our process to look at what they've written and say, this is 90% there.
So what I would say is, look at the communities that you feel have done development well. So if there are communities that you drive through and say, wow, like, that's a great residential development, or this is, or I would look at what they have, look for your models, look for what you're aspiring to be, and then look at their zoning ordinance, to see what those are. I can tell you from my experience of the communities that I think are similar to what you're looking for. That's the reason I suggested Oxford. And I also suggest Ypsilanti Township, because they're the ones who did, the cluster is a principal permitted use. I know when I first started off in planning, Grand Blanc Township was going through a lot of development. And then, they were coping with that and clusters and how to use them and things like that. I haven't been to their community lately, but it's not that far from here, and if it's someplace where you drive through and you admire what's there, that might be another place to look. But I would say, there might be communities, I would say in Michigan, because we have certain parameters here that are different in different states. But then find what you admire, look at their zoning ordinances, and look at what they do, and look at their PUD.
I think you don't do Northville Township, do you?
No.
I think Northville Township is outstanding.
So
Well,
look
there
at
you
their
go.
zoning ordinance.
Go look at their stuff too,
Mhm.
then.
Yep.
I think that's a
Joe,
good plan.
Are you okay
Yep.
being on it?
Yep.
Jason,
Yeah, sure.
at least for now?
Yeah.
Okay. Megan,
Yes.
will you send out some dates that you'll be here?
I'll be
and
here every Thursday.
Every Thursday?
Every Thursday
And
from now until the end of March.
But how many time slots do you already have filled in those Thursdays?
I don't have any time slots filled except for what we hold for the
Except on planning commission days?
except on planning commission.
What's the
days.
end of March? We run out of money?
By that time, you're stealing my thunder
Budget.
for later, but the township is going to, right now, job description is at Human Resources to advertise for zoning administrator.
Okay, cool.
And then, the idea is that I'm here every day until March. When that person comes on board, I will probably likely still come.
Right.
But eventually you won't need me here every day, every Thursday. So, but always be available to that person via phone or email.
Yeah.
So,
Are we hoping to get them in before Thursday so they can spend some time with you? Before March, I mean?
yeah, that would be
Okay.
the idea.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, okay, good. Well, I'm glad to hear that we're gonna get somebody in-house getting to be trained. Or maybe they got some training, who knows? We'll see. That's good news.
Okay, we ready? Next item, approval of minutes, October 8th. I have two changes. One is on the first page, under D. There was a motion to amend the agenda, and then a motion, Richie moved to amend the agenda as presented, and it should read as amended. And then I have another one on the bottom of page 2. Chairman Scarborough stated that he remembers that the township was exempt if it originated with them, and he explained. No. Stated that he remembers that initially the township was exempt, but we changed it to the township being required to comply. I don't know if those are my exact words. That's
So can you repeat that change again?
the change. Remembers that initially the township was exempt, but we changed this. I'm probably going too fast, aren't
That we changed
I? This
this,
to the township being required to comply.
township being required to comply. Thank you.
Support.
No, those were just changes, so.
I'm just trying to speed things up.
So make a motion to approve as.
I'll make a motion to
amended.
approve the minutes as amended.
Support.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Next item, discussion. No, consultants report. Did you give it already?
Yeah, as I stated, a zoning administrator job description has been, drafted, hopefully going out in January. I will be here, every Thursday from 8 to 5:30. And then also, obviously, you all know I'm available by email or phone. And then I've blocked, 1 to 2 hours a day, just to take care of anything that is Independence Township related. I've been set up with, Independence Township email, and access to files and whatnot, so should be able to integrate into the system, and help for this juncture.
That's great.
So, question of clarification, would this zoning administrator now be the person who does administrative approvals?
Yes,
Okay.
Eventually.
eventually,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Sweet.
Okay.
It's all
Discussion?
good news.
You done?
Yes, please.
Discussion? I attended the annual Michigan Association of Planners Conference in Kalamazoo. I was there for like 3 days. I think it was a 4-day conference. The township paid for it, so I feel an obligation to give a little feedback. There was probably 600 to 700 people there. And in my opinion, it was really professionals, people who were involved in the planning process. Maybe Megan will disagree with me, but I did not meet a lot of people who were planning commission members. I'm sure there were some there, but most of the people were consultants, municipal employees, stuff like that.
Planning professionals.
Yeah. There was probably 60 to 70 breakout sessions. I think I attended about 12 of them. One of the criticisms that I have of it is a lot of them were geared towards the professionals. They were above my head. And they were stuff, like, one of them was what Michigan Association of Planning is doing at state level to different initiatives they're taking. I'm sorry, that's interesting, but it's out of my field. I'm not gonna get involved in that stuff. And if it happens, it happens. But anyway, some of them were very good. I attended one called Mall Makeover and Re-Imaging, and another one that had to do with master plan, and the Mall Makeover and Re-Imaging, they talked about 3 different shopping centers, one in Holland, one in the Traverse City area, and one in Westland, and what they were doing to make them over. And I found those very interesting. I found particularly the contrast between 2 growing areas and one stagnant. I mean, if anybody knows Westland, it is really stagnant.
I used to live in Westland.
Yeah, so my
What are you
wife.
trying to say?
Well, I mean, I think the guy said like 80% of their population's over 60. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just, and they've been trying to, the first mall in the country or the state, Westland Mall.
Yeah,
They've been trying to.
Might be in the country.
it's a big one.
Yeah, and
Was.
they're not having a lot of luck, because it's just such, but the interesting part was, from a planning perspective, what these communities do, and it's major, huge master planning overlay districts that involves infrastructure plan changes, ordinance changes to encourage redevelopment, and they get money from outside, from grants, and you know about that. And it makes me think of Dixie Highway, and should we be doing something on a much bigger scale? And really to initiate some repurposing there, and Sam's doing things at the DDA, and yeah, so anyway, that's just, that was a good one. One of the most interesting ones I attended was on global warming, and it was presented by this guy, Abraham Lustgarten, who's a well-known reporter and author from ProPublica, and he recently published a book called On the Move, The Overheating Earth and Uprooting of America.
Is it real?
Climate change it's driven migration for thousands of years, and it will continue. And, you know, in 50 years, 19% of the world will be living in will be unsuitable for living. 1/3 to 1/2 of the world population will be in uninhabitable conditions. Asia, Central America, and North Africa will be hotspots. 216 million people will need to move. And the results of this are not, oh, good, Michigan's gonna start growing again. Michigan's property values are gonna go up. It's not that. It's gonna be overcrowding. I mean, population growth of 200 to 250% in the northern latitudes. It'll result in overcrowding, overtaxing of our infrastructure, pollution, and just think of the societal impacts that the overcrowding and the lack of food. Lack of food's gonna be cause all the farmland in those hot spots will be gone. And farmland up here is gonna be valuable.
Luckily.
And according to this guy, people like Bill Gates are already buying up farmland because they recognize that's gonna be a needed commodity.
Won't Alaska be farmland by that point?
It may well be.
Sure, China doesn't own most of the farmland.
I mean, electrical shortages.
What's it got to do with us, though?
Well, listen, this is in like 30 years, because this is all like projecting out 2050. I got on the planning commission 30 years ago, okay? So it sounds like it's a long ways off, but it ain't that far away.
We'll be built out by then.
Well, but Sam, you're gonna have overcrowding here. You're gonna have.
No, I'll be dead. They can
utilities.
take my spot. It'll just be
Okay.
a 1-for-1.
So,
You know?
okay, have that, I'm not gonna live here attitude, why do I care? Just, you gotta think of the impacts. It's gonna be horrendous, it's gonna be, I mean, one of the things they said is that it'll do, the pressure it'll put on municipalities is it's going to erode the foundations for the municipal bond market. I mean, the economic impact is horrendous. Megan put on a great session called How to Streamline the Development Process.
Don't forget my colleague Michelle, she did a good job.
Yes.
Oh, you were a presenter?
Yeah, she
Yep.
was.
I'm also now on the board of MAP.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
And she talked about, just to highlight, things like a development manual, including an internal development manual and an external, flow charts outlining the process, strong zoning codes, which hope we have, but maybe they could use some improvements, a counter checklist, development tracker, things that we, you know, I don't know what we have here, but I'm gonna have more conversations with Megan about the things she outlined in that process. What do we have here? And, what would be good for us to implement, and if there are things that we need to implement, I think particularly in light of our transition that we're going through right now, it's an opportune time to talk about it. So, that was.
Yeah, I think a long-term planning session for the planning commission would not be a bad idea.
Yeah,
I mean, just global theoretical conversations about what maybe could happen, should happen.
yeah.
When we're all dead?
But we have
Or
to
not.
prepare. I mean, you may be dead, I may be dead, but my kids aren't gonna be dead.
He'll be dead, you won't.
Yeah, that's true, too.
Yeah, that's it, more
I'm
likely.
now 104.
So anyway, I would encourage everybody to go to it. In future years, they have one every year, and they have other conferences throughout the year.
Well, we have more funding this year. We talked about it in the budget to be able to educate some people, which is,
That's
we
good.
used to do a lot of educating in the old days, and that kind of all just died away during the recession in '08, and then it never came back, you know. But,
Yeah, we do have to
In-house.
focus on that.
and the county offers a lot of classes too. Don't even
County
cost
ends,
much
yeah.
money, and they do a great job. We used to do that all the time as a commission and go to those, and it
And a
just,
lot of them are online, too.
yeah, it's funner to go,
Yeah.
you know, to go to them.
Collaborate together.
Yeah, for a
Yeah,
day.
exactly, exactly.
All right.
Anybody got anything else for discussion? Sorry, I know it's late, but I felt an obligation.
Yeah.
We
gotta
covered a
get
lot of
through
ground
it.
tonight.
We did.
Yeah. Yeah, all right,
I'll make a motion to adjourn if everybody's ready.
Second that
at
one.
9:14. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Good meeting, Bill.
Thanks.
Good.
Have a good holiday.